everybody. Welcome to the planning board meeting of October 9th, 2019. We have a few things on the agenda. First thing is minutes. If someone would be kind enough to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the draft minutes to the September 25th, 2019 planning board meeting as cited in our packets and on the agenda.
Motion's been made. Second?
I second.
Motion's been made by Bob Watts to accept the September 25th, 2019 minutes. Seconded by Joanne Love. Any comments?
Mueller, for being absent last week, do I need, is it in a Mueller form?
It's called a Mullins form.
Mullins form, excuse me. Mullins.
Yeah, and I don't believe any of the things that we're dealing with tonight
Required.
were dealt with at the last one. We'll need to get that into the file for whatever it was you missed at the last one.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah. all
So
right.
whatever you missed here.
He has to do it.
Yes.
No, Harry.
Am I mistaken?
He doesn't have to do it because there was nothing but a continuation.
That's what I thought.
We didn't get any new information.
Okay. I thought you could do it one way or the other.
I know we started doing it that way with Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I checked with that.
Okay, great. Well, then I stand corrected.
Because there's nothing that I would be ineligible to vote on.
That's
Okay.
right.
Because there was no information taken?
No new information.
Phenomenal. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, solid.
Thank you.
Anything else about the minutes? Before we give it to them?
No, sounds good.
Okay, the only correction I saw was, John, it says September 12th at the top.
It does.
So, it's supposed to be the 25th, right? And I didn't see anything else,
Oh,
so. Everybody ready? All in favor of approving the minutes of September 25th, 2019, say aye.
aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Good. Correspondence? Do you want to wait on the correspondence till after we do the hearings? We don't have any vouchers, so with that being done, let's move directly to, who's here for, if I could just ask, who's here for 51 West Main? If you could just hold up your hand, that would be helpful. And who's here for 103A Lake Ridge? Let's do 103 Lake Ridge first. Let's do that one first, John. John?
Yeah.
If it doesn't throw the schedule off.
Okay, and just to bring the board up to speed, there is a handout before you this evening. The applicant is asking for a leave to withdraw without prejudice. That would allow them to come back in the future if they're able to accommodate what the board's concerns were. Just in sum, they're trying to get a wider easement to the property, and they have been unsuccessful in doing that at this point, so they're asking to withdraw at this point.
So the applicant for 103A Lake Ridge Drive is asking to withdraw.
Before you open, I'd like to recuse myself.
Let the record show that Bruce Fry recuses himself as an abutter, appropriate. That leaves the four of us. Applicant's asking for withdrawal. We need to, to allow that to occur, we have to vote, my understanding. So, does someone want to make a motion to allow the applicant to withdraw?
Please.
Well, I have a question. They withdraw and then they have to start all over again.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like null and void that it was in there.
It's a withdrawal without prejudice. We're not saying we can't come back. We're just
Right.
saying,
Don't we have to open it first?
oh, that's a good point, Tilly, very good. I'll accept the motion to open the continuation of 103A Lake Ridge Drive, special permit, lane or court? Court? Is there a motion to open the hearing?
I move we open the hearing on 103 Lake Ridge Drive, one lot subdivision.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Bob Watts, seconded by Joanne Love to open the public hearing continuation for 103A Lake Ridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Let the record show that it was 4-0 with one recusal. Is there another motion you'd like to make?
I make a motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice for the clients of David and Mary Swenson.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded for withdrawal. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Let the record show that that was a 4-0 vote with one recusal. And the public hearing is still open if anybody has any comments, but I'd really like to just close it if you don't have any. Yes, sir. Would you state your name, sir, for the
John
record?
Keen, 18 Lake Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Does this mean he has to send those certified letters and everything again, like it's a brand new thing next time?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, if you should choose to come back, if he ever does, he will have to go through the same process that you went through. But as of a couple of minutes from now, this is gonna be closed and done. Anybody else? There being nothing but heads nodding out there, I'll accept the motion to close the public hearing for 103A Lake Ridge Drive, special permit.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the hearing for 103 Lake Ridge Drive.
Second.
Motion has been made by Bob Watts, seconded by Joanne Lau to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for being such great abutters. And that brings us to 51 West Main Street.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reopen the public hearing, 51 West Main Street.
Is there a second? Motion has been made by Bob Watts, seconded by Bruce Fry, to reopen the public hearing for 51 West Main Street. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Thank you. Hi, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening, good to see you again. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Pleasure to be back. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is John Colantoni. The applicant. Also with me tonight is Thad Berry, the project engineer, and John Duggar, the project architect.
Take that down. You
Run
can
it
take that down.
completely.
Yeah, you can take that
Okay.
down. And turn it around, please. We'll look at that next time. That's fine, though.
This one?
Renderings are fine, I've seen them before. There you go. That's good. Good. John?
Yes, as stated in the staff report for tonight's meeting, unfortunately, we weren't able to get the revised plan at the time for a consultant engineer to review and have comments ready for this evening. On a positive note, the applicant has requested to be before the board this evening to tackle the affordable housing component of this application, all in an attempt to continue moving this forward, and this is a worthwhile topic to spend some time on and get everybody on the same page and in agreement. And Attorney McCann is here this evening. She's fully aware of what our goal is this evening, and she's prepared to address the board on the issue.
That's great. Nancy, take it away.
Thank you. Last time we were here, September 11th, we had a really productive meeting on plan revisions and comments, and we've been busily in the process of getting those done. They were not submitted by your deadline for tonight's meeting, although we do have everyone here should any questions regarding the plans come up. However, for purposes of discussion tonight, I did submit to the board on August 5th a letter outlining our understanding of the affordable housing component, the inclusionary housing bylaw. You didn't have that in your
I'm sorry, did
packets.
you say you have a letter? Just a single letter?
I sent a letter on August 5th. You didn't have it for some reason in your packets at the last meeting. And I talked to John afterward, and you said, yes, you did have it, and you were getting it to them.
I must have missed it. Do you have any copies of that?
And one extra copy, but we can
I
go
can
over it.
copies of it. Want me to go make copies?
Sure.
Well,
It's got numbers
I have
on
an
it.
idea. We're going to get one, right? We obviously have it somewhere in the file.
Yep.
Why don't you,
Go ahead and talk, and
Would you
I'll be
summarize
right back.
that?
It'll take 2
Sure,
seconds.
maybe
absolutely.
you can summarize it for us?
This letter included two things. Number one, it included information about how the fire department wanted us to address the property in different units, and we discussed this at the last meeting, and I think everybody was in agreement with that. The second part of the letter addressed the inclusionary housing bylaw, section 16571, and our understanding of how that applies to this development and how we propose to handle that. So, under the inclusionary housing bylaw, we have an affordable housing calculation number of 0.7 because we have 7 units. And under the bylaw, that means we fall under the category that specifically addresses developments from 3 to 7 units. And let me just pull out the section here. while I'm talking. Section 71. I have it on there. Stickies.
Maybe you can paraphrase.
Way too many stickies.
Maybe you can paraphrase.
I can paraphrase it. So, what we are proposing to do is, as these will be for sale units, that we follow exactly the calculation under section F, subsection E, for homeownership developments of 3 to 7 units. The housing contribution payment is equal to the average market sales price times the number of units times 4%. So basically what the payment is made is 4% of the purchase price. That's how we're proposing and how this works out. This is a similar way that I handled a subdivision with this board a number of years ago, Harris Way. We did exactly the same thing. So we enter into an agreement so that which is secured by a mortgage on the property, so that for each sale, at the time of the sale, a percentage of 4% of the actual purchase price is paid to the town. And the mortgage related to that particular unit, a partial release of mortgage, is given to allow that sale to go forward. So at the time of each sale, payment of 4% of the purchase price is made to the Affordable Housing Trust. That is we're not asking for anything different than the exact calculation in the bylaw, but that's how it would.
The timing you're talking about and the Emma Harris Way development, that was one of the very first calculations we ever did.
And it wasn't even really itemized in the bylaw as specifically then.
No, because I don't think the bylaw even existed at that point.
It didn't, it was
In the works.
kind of in theory.
It was in the works,
But the
right.
calculation wasn't there of the 4% and how it would work. And so for Harris Way, we put it together, and that's exactly now the way your bylaw reads, and it worked very, very well.
It worked in function, it did, it worked in function, but
Yep.
holding each individual one was, from what I heard, a little bit more burden than the folks at Town Hall wanted to really deal with. But it was necessary, it was a necessary
Yeah.
component, because it was
Right.
done in a singular fashion
And
with each sale.
And there's a couple levels of security there. You have the mortgage, which is secure, so that a closing couldn't happen without the payment being made. And then the planner at that time, and I assume John would fill this role at this time, worked directly with the closing attorney to make sure that the payment was made and all of that. So John isn't involved in it, I'm not involved in it, it's directly with the bank attorney who's handling the closing. So it really worked very well to make that happen. So that's, in the letter of August 5th, is exactly what we've outlined here. So it would be the average and it wouldn't even be the average market sales price, it would be the actual market sales price would be used times the 7 units times 4% paid as the units closed.
What I remember about Harris Way is that there wasn't that many payments made. It was either, I think it was 2 checks that came through. They didn't wait for every house. Because I forget his last name, but he kind of bought it from someone else. the project, and he only had a couple of lots to finish.
No, you know what actually happened in that case? Peter Conflon did the whole development, but it was 10, there were 10 lots.
Right.
And the original approval, because it was 10 lots, required an actual unit, an actual dwelling unit.
Okay.
And then, as he got further along, we approached the board to make a payment in lieu of an actual unit. But he had already sold a
All the
certain
lots.
number of units.
Yeah.
So we had to basically write a check for the units that had already
Yeah.
been sold based on their sales price. And then there were, I believe, 4 or 5 units under the mortgage that then made payments and
Okay, because I
discharges were
remember it
made.
wasn't like 10 payments.
It
was
wasn't
just
10
double.
because we were halfway through, a little more than halfway through,
Right.
before the payment in lieu went into place.
Yeah. I
But
just,
this is different because we'll start it right from the very beginning.
yeah, seven checks is a lot to
Um,
keep track of.
It sounds like a very, very, one really good way to prevent some of the confusion that comes from the actual mechanics of the payments and the security that needs to be behind that. Certainly a way. I don't know if this board will decide that that is the way. They may decide an alternative one. It'd be best to hear from any other members or John.
Yeah, typically what would happen with the decision, it will be stated in the decision, how much per unit is due prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. And the stopgap is, my assistant and myself, or whoever's the town planner at the time, as well as the building inspector. When the building inspector is issuing certificates of occupancy, you need everybody to check off, if all the conditions have been approved.
All the sign-offs.
Right,
Protocol
and the
sign-offs.
building inspector also reads through every approval to make sure he's not missing anything.
Sure.
So there's 2 stopgap measures being taken to collect that. Is it a problem with the treasurer's office? Not really. This is how it's done. If you're going to have an affordable housing component and there's a collection of fees on a per unit basis, this is how it's done. It's written into the decision has to be followed.
Yeah, we were actually, if I'm not mistaken, holding the mortgages in a safe downstairs.
Yeah, you actually
yeah.
held the discharges.
Yeah.
The partial discharges
and-
were
and-
executed in advance,
Yeah.
held in the safe,
Yep.
and then as the payments were made, they
And
were
again, that
released.
was all in the lead up to this, not to this, to the inclusionary housing bylaw.
Right.
And, one quick question well, let's deal with that first. Can I ask, and this is probably my ignorance to the bylaw. So you won't be creating an on-site unit, that's correct?
Correct.
So it's an off-site unit.
No, it's a payment in lieu.
Right, but it would be an off-site payment in lieu. And I think if you flip ahead there a little bit, there's another calculation for the off-site payment in lieu. And I've always been a little bit confused as to the application of that. And if I can, perhaps now would be a good time, if you don't mind, sir, I see one of the members of the Affordable Housing Trust back there. Paul Nelson?
Yep.
Sir, would you mind pulling up a chair? Because
Yeah, I can do that.
we're a little bit limited tonight as far as coverage for the tape, for the minutes, et cetera. If you could pull up, maybe we can bring you into this discussion. And was somebody else with you?
Yes, our administrator.
Oh, by all means, please, come on up.
I'm gonna take notes from here.
Okay.
It's probably safer.
We don't bite.
A quick exit from the house.
Staying close to the door, huh?
Exactly.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, there's actually a couple of elements. The first one, I don't wanna throw a rock in the pond, but basically, if you read the inclusionary bylaw, in section D, it says requirements are at least 10% of new housing units in any residential development shall be designated as affordable. It's actually up to you guys as to what you want, whether it's 10%, 15%, or 20%, according to the way the bylaw is written. It says at least, and it doesn't say that it must be. So that's one element you need to look at. And then the other piece of it is the 4% is probably the lowest that we get for every affordable unit. 4% of the sale price
Mhm.
is the lowest that I've ever seen in all the things that I looked at, all the other towns that I looked at. It's usually 10 and it goes up to 25. So it's really, the bylaw as it's written right now is a developer's dream.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm
That's
just-
all right, that's all right.
um,
It's a lot of stuff.
And we're
We don't.
gonna be discussing the whole inclusionary housing bylaw, everybody knows that.
Right.
That's one of the points that we're gonna be discussing, the bylaw itself for
You
potential
didn't give
changes
us
to town
copies of
meeting.
that
But,
bylaw.
Paul, can you explain, there's the calculation that Nancy just said.
And that was
We're at
right,
4%.
absolutely. If you go into the calculation, as it's laid out,
You got
that's
it?
absolutely correct.
And then there's another one after that's a 6%.
Right.
And
That's where it's,
I'm confused.
I
help me out
asked you, it was ambiguous, how do you define an in lieu of payment as being on-site or off-site?
Yeah,
It doesn't make any
thank you.
sense.
Well, I guess if you're using money to buy one of the new
The
housing
money-
that's being built, or it's housing elsewhere that you're buying.
I guess.
Like you pool your money together, that's probably what they're referring to.
On the idea that if it was a 4%, you'd be getting a 4% because you were the housing trust was intending to
Buy one of the
pony
new
up some more
units
money
that are being
and
built.
buy one of those units,
But why should it be different?
because you're not buying that unit. So if you're buying off-site, outside of the unit,
So they up it.
so they,
But that doesn't make any sense, because the price of the units on-site are probably gonna be more than something we would buy off-site, because we'd probably buy something cheaper that was off-site and essentially upgrade it and sell it as affordable.
perhaps with the notion that where there aren't many sales off-site, it's a very, very tight market out there, so you need a little bit more money, because when supply isn't as great, you end up paying more. I really don't know.
It doesn't make sense, that's
don't know.
something that should be cleaned up, because it.
Definitely something we should
it's-
look at.
It doesn't make
But
any
with
sense.
respect to 51 West Main,
Yeah.
did you folks have a chance to, Paul, I know, did you see that letter? I mean, is
Which
the
letter?
trust in agreement with the calculation?
No, it
As far
looks
as
like-
the 4%?
This is just extracted right from the,
Exactly.
yeah, and that's fine, that's the way it's written.
Okay.
But the number is 6, not 4.
No, 6 is for the if you consider it an off-site.
That's what we're considering
Yeah,
it, because they're not building
They-
on-site.
But you're not building it all with a payment in lieu.
Yeah, but that's,
And I think, is it ambiguous? Is it oddly drafted? Yes. But I think in our situation, we fall under, because we have .7, we don't have to provide an on-site unit. We can provide a housing contribution payment. And it then goes on to say how that's calculated, and this is all under section F. And that's where we get the 4%.
And then in the next paragraph, it says 6, so I'm confused.
Yeah.
John, maybe someone can illuminate us here a little bit.
We
A
don't-
little bit.
I think it doesn't,
Yeah, it doesn't apply.
apply.
The reason that next paragraph doesn't apply the way I understood it is because we're at the .7, so we fall into that paragraph of the 4%. We're not buying off-site at all. We're giving a payment to the
Right.
trust using the formula that's in the bylaw on the .7. So that next paragraph doesn't apply to us.
I can understand your confusion, John, but it says, according to F, it says the fractional affordable housing units and housing contribution payments. All projects consisting of 3 or more housing units shall be required to use the following calculations to determine the number of on-site affordable units required under the bylaw. And then it goes on.
Now, continue to read that. As well as the amount of a contribution payment
Yeah,
for whole or fractional
but that
units.
F
So,
pertains to
no.
on-site. When you go further and you go to G, that's off-site affordable housing.
But
And there it says,
I don't think we have that.
affordable off-site housing units may be either new construction and payment in lieu for an off-site housing contribution as outlined in subsection G. So this is the 6, and that one is the 4. G is 6 and F is 4.
How would F, the way you're wording it, ever have an on-site payment in lieu?
Absolutely. If you were going to sell one of those units and establish it in the deed as an affordable unit as per the Affordable Trust requires, that would be on site.
Correct, but you wouldn't be making a payment in lieu then.
Well, it would if you were doing 14 units. Because you do
But we're doing.
one full, and then the point 4 would be on site,
If you,
the point 4.
but the,
Your calculation would be 1.4.
yes, but you would never make a payment in lieu if you're providing something on site.
Well, if you were required to, if it was, let's say, 14 units,
Yes,
you would come up with an odd number. You'd come up with a whole,
correct.
and you'd come up with an in lieu. So you provide 1, but the remainder would be the point 4.
But it would still be off-site, because it wouldn't be a unit on-site. And so
I
that's,
think in that case, it would be on site, because you have
Because you have
already
the
done
one.
it, and that would be that contingency. But now when it's completely off-site, that's, and it's interpretation,
I think it is
this is how I'm reading it.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I
I don't
defer to
think-
the Affordable Housing Trust for
Well,
these complicated, and that's just me. And so
You're-
you're reading it differently to me.
Your payment in lieu of payment, because it's not equal to 1 unit, if it's off-site, you're never gonna get it either. So either one of F or G is not gonna equal 1 total cost of an affordable unit. So you, no matter how you look at it, it's just not gonna happen because you don't have 10 units in your project. If you did, then you would have 1 whole unit and your payment would equal to that 1 unit, or build it on site.
Yeah, if you read this thing, it does say the permitting board may, as a condition of approval, permit inclusionary housing requirement to be met through provision of the required affordable housing units on an alternate site, or either, payment in lieu of off-site. So it's up to you guys to define whether this is an on-site or off-site, it looks like.
Absolutely.
I don't see a criteria though.
You know what?
No, there's no criteria, it's
If
just.
I can help
Right.
That's
simplify.
judgment
And
call.
this is one of the reasons we really need to clean this up.
No.
We really need to clean this.
That's
We
fine.
got a plan to do it.
That's what I was going back to again, the earlier one, in section D, where it says requirements, is at least 10% of the new housing units. It says at least. That
See,
gives you the opportunity to make it 15 if you want, you get
That's
it,
right.
you get that.
I agree with what you're saying, that it's up to us to decide this as our interpretation. But the thing about it is, let me get my thought together, is that if we just give you 4% and treat it like it is on site, which it isn't, the town is losing out.
Interesting.
And that's not our goal, is to have the town lose out. At least not mine.
There are a few issues that we're dealing with.
Mhm.
Number one, we don't deal with this on a meeting-by-meeting basis.
No.
Okay. And there's one
No.
concrete, example that Attorney McCann used earlier. And not that we set a precedent with that, but, you know, you did make the decision on that particular housing development in the manner of which you described and of which she wants to propose. Parish Road, we did the same thing too, it's just that project hasn't taken off yet. We are in the midst of doing it here, we did it with the LIP, 34 East Main Street, there's a housing component with that, but that's a 40B.
That's a 40B, so
Right.
it's like
That's
20%.
And that's, you know, if I can just explain, 40Bs are different, you know, somebody applies for them most likely because there's no alternative to the project. And, you know, this town, if this town didn't have 10% of its housing stock available for affordable housing units, then we'd be dealing with 40Bs, but we do meet that criteria. This application has nothing to do with 40B, it has to do with inclusionary affordable housing units.
No, to begin with, it's
The-
25% for
Right.
affordable on the 40Bs, and
Right.
that's not where we're at.
Now, just to really simplify this,
Yeah, what's your interpretation?
it-
I think everybody in
incredibly
this room's gonna have a
complex.
different interpretation.
okay, in F, in parentheses, subsection 1, the last sentence of that, I'll read it aloud. When the calculation of section 16571 results in a fractional affordable housing unit of .1 to .7, the developer shall provide a whole on-site unit or make a housing contribution payment in lieu of the fractional unit. Okay, so the precedent, I'll just call it precedent, how about example, that Attorney McCann utilized and is utilizing in her letter is for this board to entertain the possibility of continuing with the permitting relative to what's been done in the past, and that's an in lieu of payment. And that in lieu of payment has a formula on the following page of the section.
The one you're referring to is the 4%.
Right. So what you really have the choice of, and it is the board's call, you can defer to someone else, but you really have to make the decision as the permit granting authority, and it's specified in this law.
When I say defer, I mean, I take with great gravity
Yeah.
the advice and recommendations of the trust.
So, you know, in the technical reading of this, from .1 to .7, this board could require, I'm not saying it's fair, but the board could require one of the 7 units to be sold as an affordable housing unit. That's what it says, right? They're asking for an in lieu of payment in accordance with the formula that's provided within this bylaw. And that's up to the board to decide. You know, when you're talking about affordable rental units in a 40B, and I know a lot of communities that do go to the max 25%. A lot of those communities are city, urban core, city environments, and you know, they're dealing with 400 or 500 units of housing.
Sure.
You know, it's
Buildings,
yeah,
I know.
yeah, and it's rental. And believe me, even the affordable, and everybody knows this isn't affordable for many people out there. You know, you might, you know, fall into that bracket of being eligible for affordable. But it would be hard, you'd be hard pressed to actually afford it on, you know, regular salary. Rental prices are extraordinarily high, you know, even for the affordable units. So what I'm saying is it really doesn't impact that much the bottom line of the landlord. It doesn't, because they're getting plenty for that rental unit to begin with, and then the icing on the cake is the price they're getting for all the market rate, the 75% of the market rate.
How does that apply not with an apartment, which would have applied, well, we just did that with CVS. We did something like that with CVS. But how does the actual mechanics apply to, these are condos, am I correct? These are condos.
Right, it's ownership.
And these are condos that have not yet sold.
Correct.
And all of the, I don't know what you wanna call it, the angst I've ever had from these comes from the fact that we need to put a number on something prior to it being sold. And it's difficult to do that.
That's why I suggested that you not do that. That the number be based on the actual sale price. So there's no guessing, and you know exactly how much it is, and that's what the payment for each sale is based on. The actual sale price that's listed in the deed and recorded at the registry.
I'm not gonna hold you, I'm sorry, did any, I don't wanna hog the before, but I have a question, if anybody. What do you think the average sale price for these will be?
Well, what we use as the average, depending on when we have these built in. So
Maybe I should say mean, the mean cost.
we
would
use
be.
500,000. In using the formula, the town would be getting $140,000 in law.
I'm just thinking, a $500,000 condo, if this board were to say, okay, one of those will be affordable, I don't see 500,000 as being affordable
No.
in any way.
Yeah.
And I know it
You really
would be,
think it would sell for 500,000?
Well, again, I can only go by what some of the real estate agents in town think that it'll sell for more, so that's why, and Nancy and I talking, to be fair to the town, if all of a sudden, I'm just making this up, one sold for 600,000,
Mhm.
on that particular unit, the town would be making more.
Mhm.
So that's why we thought it was a win-win, but for conversation's sake, we were using
just using a
500,000.
ballpark,
Yeah.
just getting a ballpark idea, just to,
That's just crazy.
these are probably.
It all depends if interest rates stay low and the market continues going up.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how, if you had a unit and sold it as affordable, how would you calculate the price to sell it as an affordable unit? Would you just subtract that
That's a calculation.
We
calculation?
don't do that, we do that using HUD formulas.
Okay.
No.
So if the unit sold at 500,000, there's a formula that HUD would have to say that this is how much it should
Well,
sell for?
we don't even look at it, they look at the number of bedrooms, the number of people that go into it, and like, a two-bedroom is a little over 200K
Mhm.
is what you can charge for it.
Okay.
So who absorbs the difference?
Developer.
Actually, not.
See, the developer should be doing that, that's
Well,
where my problem
if
is.
we buy a house, we would upgrade it and sell it, and if we'll buy it at market rate and then fix it up and do whatever we have to do to it, but when we sell it, we can only sell it for what the HUD allows us to sell it for.
Right,
That-
in
It's
that
a little
position,
bit different.
in
And
that
that's what
position,
you
you are a
use,
developer.
The
Right?
money
Well,
that's
the-
put into the trust.
Right,
for
although
payments
right
and-
now, we're kinda like money rich and house poor, so.
The other thing,
But the developer eats that, because if it was a $500,000 sale and you could only sell it for 200,000,
That's the
that 300,000
That's
would
the
come out
problem.
of their pocket.
Exactly.
This is brand new, you don't have to put money into it.
So the 4% in this case, you said it comes to about 150,000 or something like that?
yeah, if
Something
we're
that
using
should-
500,000, it'd be
If
like
we're just,
140.
if we're using that as round figures, so it's actually a lot better than something like that, from your perspective.
And then the other thing
Only
is,
half the cost.
if I may, this is a unique project in regard to, we're taking an 1800 building in the front and have to restore that. It would cost less to knock that thing down and rebuild it, but that's not what the arrangement is and not what the town wants. So we're taking that on. So, we have to look at the whole picture. I completely respect Paul's position and his board and the planning board on the affordable housing, but we sort of have to look at the whole picture. So we were trying to use the formula within the bylaws and try to be a win-win, and if all of a sudden they sell for more, the town's making more.
But I think their stipulation has to be on there, if the board so chooses, there has to be a minimum price. There has to be, to make it work to the town's benefit.
Oh, I
If
see
you
what you're
sell it
saying.
for less,
I see what you're saying, because a shady customer, if I was Mr. Evil Developer,
it's
I
not
would,
that it's shady.
I could sell, I'd sell to John, all of them for $100,000. And then I'd give you 40,000. And I'd walk away.
What do you estimate is
And
your
John can
profit
resell
on
it.
your
The straw,
$500,000
the straw,
house?
Yeah. the
What is
straw.
your cost, I should say, for that house?
To build a house,
Just the unit, building, construction.
Well, you have to include,
I'm not trying to avoid the question. It's impossible because we don't even know our site costs yet, because we don't have anything approved.
This is a dilemma we run into all the time with this bylaw. We ran into it, I'm hearing from Palmer Lane, we ran into it in certain other ways when, with lots, because the average lot would sell for 200,000, the house would sell for 650, but the bylaw says average, so you're down at 400.
right,
All you need is one lot sold blank, and then it brings the average down, it should be mean.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
many
if I may-
Or it should be the exact.
A guesstimate, right,
Mhm.
total development costs involved in this project, you're probably looking at cost of $400K per condo unit for him to build. With everything, including legal fees, engineering, labor, materials,
Absolutely,
that's,
absolutely.
but you can't consider that, you
But,
have to just
but you're
key in
also,
onto the unit.
but you're also dealing with the fickleness of the economy,
The
which
market.
could tip on its head in a day, maybe
Overnight.
10 years from now.
Over
So
speed.
this guy is the one putting up all this money, and it's a gamble.
Tilly,
Oh,
let me, if I may,
oh.
through the chair,
Sure,
let me
John.
try to answer your question for a second. So you get 7 units,
Mhm.
let's take 2,000 square feet of living space as the average.
Mm.
Cost-wise, if I can get that done, living space-wise, at 150, which is, you know, the way things are up there,
Mhm.
you know, you're looking at 2.1 million
Mhm.
before you get into any site, any restoration of the wetlands, anything like that. So our goal from day one of this thing is, if we sell the 7 townhouses
Mhm.
and can break even or make money to keep the commercial piece and restore that, then that's kind of a win. That's a very unusual thing for a developer to say. Most developers are gonna say, I wanna make money on the townhouses plus the commercial, but we're trying to be very realistic here.
Mm.
Because when we originally started this whole thing, we thought maybe that we could get 9 or 10 townhouses to be built. But when we got the interpretation finally of the bylaws on how 10,000 square feet has to come out per residential unit,
Buildable area.
that's how the 7 became. So then we say, okay, well, that's why, if you notice since day one, way back, we've been saying that 7 is the minimum, because that barely gets us through what we're trying to do. I hope that, I know that's not a perfect answer, but I hope that
Yeah.
helps a little bit on the figures.
Well, how much of a saving is it for you to not give us one of those units? And that'd be done with it, no money. Isn't that an easier way than to pay for 7?
No, because I'll tell you why, and again, it may sound strange, but we can budget it in, and we don't look at it, it's an expense, there's no doubt about it, but when I say budget it in, I almost look at it as the listing expense. When we go to list these to sell, you know how sometimes it costs you 4 or 5%?
Right.
So we look at this, and I'm just gonna use the 4% if that's what it is. Okay, we know every unit we sell, we're gonna lose 4%, but at least it doesn't come until we sell it. So we're already to that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not upfront.
Right, it lessens the blow.
The head, yeah.
Does it hurt no matter what? Absolutely, but it's a cost of doing business in Georgetown, just like other towns have it. And it's for the right cause, for lack of better terms, you know, it is what it is. There's a reason for affordable housing, and I respect that. You know?
Thank you, thank you. Paul, I'm gonna throw it to you, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Thoughts there?
Excuse me?
Thoughts? How would you advise the board to move forward?
Interesting. When I was looking through the inclusionary bylaw, I looked around at what some of the other towns were doing and what they had for their in lieu of payments and percentage wise and things like that. And we're the lowest I've found anywhere. 10% is the nominal number. Some places are 25. It depends on whether it's rental or it's a condo. So it's really interesting. In fact, I got a cheat sheet I made up for all you guys that didn't get a chance to get around, but it gives you a little bit of the insight of what it was. Chelmsford, I looked at Shrewsbury and Maynard.
But did you look at other towns around our size?
These are all towns. And
But Chelmsford's a lot bigger than Georgetown.
it is. Maynard's probably a little bit bigger too, but in Massachusetts, a town is a designation of population this to this. And we fall into that.
And that's really good information. I hope we can explore that a little later on this evening if you'll hang around, because we'll be bringing up the amendments for this bylaw
Okay.
Yeah.
at a later point. Right now, I'd like to focus on 51 West Main and what the trust would recommend to the board to do. I know this, you're just getting that letter, I'm just getting the letter. I understand that if you prefer not to.
No, it's,
advise us.
like I say, financially, we're doing fine. We're having a hard time spending our money to make something happen. So we would much rather see a property than more money that goes into a bank account.
You're having a hard time because of the price of real estate right now, or?
That and the lack of opportunity, if anything's really good, it's been snapped up already. So what we look at is units that probably have to be rehabbed, and we're looking at a couple of those.
Well, how about this thought, the 140,000 that is used, if you could save that for one last unit, and that combined with the money that we have in the affordable housing account, would that be enough to possibly buy
Oh,
these
sure,
units?
we could buy one, and we'd buy it, say we used the 140 and then add another 300 in there, or whatever it took to get there. But then we turn around and we sell that unit for like 220, so we're gonna be losing all of the money, we'll probably lose 300,000 on that transaction, so we're not gonna be able to do many transactions, cause we lose money every time we sell a house. We buy it.
But the town
But
gets
you
a
get,
bump in the SHI.
but you get a
Yes.
unit.
You get,
you know,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean,
So-
I mean, anytime you
it-
buy housing, you're gonna lose the money because you're spending it.
The objective is.
So much more sold.
Because it's the government.
Let's get down to
Make the person
the
business losing
numbers
money.
again, Joe.
I mean, I'm just thinking that
Joey,
if,
please,
Joanne,
speak.
that was basically it, that, could that be a viable option? That one of the units is purchased by the affordable housing?
I like this idea to
Yeah,
use some
but if you
creative
get-
financing.
Joanne, if you have 7 units and they're going to pay in 100 and how much did you figure?
Well, we're just doing 140.
Well, how about just on
140.
6
All right.
units?
All right, let's say
6
just
units.
100. So you right there you got $700,000. If they're only selling them for 500, why aren't you building a unit to save money?
I apologize,
I
I lost it. I
You
apologize.
gave us the figure of 100 and I think 24 was it?
140.
140,
Give or take a
140.
little bit.
Based on a $500,000 sale
Yeah.
price
Right.
of 7 units.
All right.
that's all of them.
That's all of them.
For all of them together, when you put the sale price of all of them together, it's 140,000 total
Alright.
payment.
Well-
Not 140 each.
Right.
That would be like 30% or something of the, that would be a lot.
That would be a lot.
Be a lot.
That would be a deal breaker.
That would
be a deal
probably
breaker.
not work on the spreadsheet.
But at 6%, it's not even that. I'm not going with 4%. This is 6%.
Six,
So-
So it doesn't apply.
you're not talking about 6%, you're talking about 60%. 0.6.
Yeah, that's a
not
typo.
0.06.
It's
a typo.
0.06.
It's a typo
Definitely.
in the bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 0.006.
It's 0.0.
Yeah. It's 0.06. You know.
Why don't we split it down the middle and point at 0.5?
Well, I kind of
Stop
like
the
the.
bantering and the.
Well, that, you know, that's probably let's, where are we with that? First off, one thing at a time. Good point, John. Good point.
I don't
The
think so.
board consider, are we looking at applying G with the 6%, which we know it should be, or what is it, the F3, is it F3? Do I have those right? F3 versus G, 4% versus 6%, the whole question of it, is it an on-site, is it an off-site? It's an in-lieu payment of some type. Where does the board feel, just straw poll or something like that?
You only have to read it to understand it. And as me and you have been in on this from day one, I think.
This has always been a series of
And it always
confusing
has
things to me.
been, and I understand how people can get confused. But to me, like I explained before, F is your direction,
Mhm.
that first paragraph. And there clearly it says on site. When you get to G, skip over to G, and you see
Offsite.
off-site. He's turning down on-site. He doesn't want a unit on-site. Therefore, you have to follow G.
I guess, so Tilly, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying G applies. Bob?
No, I think it's F.
Bob says F. Joanne?
I think it's a,
F? Bruce?
I think it's F, but I'm also thinking maybe we can word it so that there's a minimum if we do the 4%, so that if the units go for less than 500, we don't get less.
It's this board's prerogative, right, amongst your discussion, that you could make this into a hybrid so that it's an FG. and you come to 0.5% again, as a good compromise.
Mr.
And I
Chair,
think everybody
actually
leaves the
sounds-
table, I think everybody leaves the table not giddy, but not mad.
Mr. Chair, a question. We would have no problem, because it's a very good point that they brought up earlier, on a minimum. So in other words, you know, if it was the 4%,
Minimum sale price,
And
you
we're-
mean? I'm sorry,
no, no.
minimum sale price?
so let's use the 500,000 per unit for a second. So that would be 140,000 going to the trust if
With
they
the
all,
4%.
if they all sold at 500,000.
At the 4% rate.
Right, but let's pretend that they all sold at 400,000, which is gonna bring the total way down, right? So, if we have to take that as the minimum, no matter what happens,
The 140.
you know, whatever that minimum is gonna be, you know, that's
I'm sorry, are you talking about a minimum of?
minimum
of the
total,
sale price?
minimum
Flat
total dollar figure.
Oh, you're looking at the dollar figure, I'm still trying to figure out how we're gonna calculate.
Yeah, the
that
sale
dollar.
price would be
Okay.
impossible because it just wouldn't,
It creates some issues.
If we use the 4% and put in that a minimum of 20,000 per
per
unit, 4% or $20,000, whichever is greater,
Perfect.
right? Then we can't lose, we're gonna get at least 20,000 per unit. If they sell for 600,000,
That'll get more.
town wins, and if they sell for less, you don't lose as much, right? Something like that.
It's about as
What's
much as he's gambling anyway,
Yeah.
it sounds like a
Yeah,
pretty
it's-
good operation.
What's the
That's my
purchase
thought.
price that comes out to the 20,000?
Is 500,000. 4% of 20,
So, okay, so
500,000
that's
would
the
be 20,000, right?
500,000.
And if you multiply that by 7 units, there's your 140,000.
right,
So we would do a minimum of 20,000 per unit or 4%, whichever is greater.
We
So-
did this, by the way, something similar in the Harris Way agreement. If one of the lots was sold without a house on it,
Mm,
we had a minimum
There was a minimum
payment,
there.
there was a minimum payment
Mhm.
there. So it's not unheard of to do something like this. If we think the purchase price is going to be about 500, I guess I would say maybe the minimum of 450.
Actually, Attorney Leaf, what we did is we assumed that if they're selling a lot, that we took the mean price of the houses that were already sold and used that as an additive to the actual cost of the lot per se.
Mhm.
So we always were getting, essentially a return as if the lot has a house on it.
Mhm.
So that's how it worked on Attorney Leaf.
Well, that prevented the straw sales. you know.
Excuse me?
The straw sales where every lot sells without a house, right after the decision's made, right after it's ready to go.
Well, actually, no, some of them were actually built by the builder, and so there were 4 or 5 that were actually built, but the rest of them were lots, yeah.
Minimum.
But I still see, I don't know why you don't look at D.
D, I'm sorry,
Section
Paul,
D.
I'm sorry, let's look at D.
His requirements at,
E, F, I'm sorry, hang on.
requirements at least 10% of the new housing units in any residential front shall be affordable. It says at least, it gives you the leeway to make it 15% if you want, and that gives you a unit.
Right, this is, obviously, we have to go through this and make revisions,
We
so
do,
that,
we do.
that will be taken up, I would think, with that, right?
But this is
I
a
would hope we
document
looked
that
at
this
that, I would
is
hope we
based
looked at
on.
it.
Yeah.
I applaud your vigor in this, Paul. I think, at this point, I think it would be a little bit late in the game to, that would constitute pulling the rug out, I mean, in my mind.
So like
It's
going
folks that-
forward after we.
Yeah, if we were to do that, and maybe in the next iteration of this, we could, make that a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
That the board would do it.
It's pretty
I have a little
clear
bit of
now.
a worry whenever a
People just
board has
haven't-
the opportunity to do that.
Has everybody read this document? Has anybody read this document?
I've tried.
We've read it as fast,
Confusing
I've
as it
read
is.
it quite a
It
few
needs to be
times.
rewritten.
And
But I
every
can tell
time
you-
I do, that's what I say.
You know what, thinking about it, when we do this ad hoc committee and we look at more communities and we get an up-to-date feel of what's going on out there, in all likelihood, we're gonna end up getting rid of the 4%, the 6%, just attach the 10%, and it's out there. In the past, we've operated with this and we've gone with the options, and it has been on the low end. can't fault them for trying to, you know, take advantage of that particular thing, because we've done it in the past.
Mhm.
But when we go through this and overhaul it, and get a better feel for it, you know, we're probably gonna end up getting 10% of whatever housing stock is being developed.
That is the goal.
Right,
That is the
and, you know, I think we have to be more realistic. I think we have to get people in here that are number crunchers, and, you know, you can't charge somebody to a point where it makes the project unfeasible.
Right, cause then nobody's gonna
Yeah, I
build
mean,
or
this,
sell.
this isn't big, it
Hold
really
on,
isn't.
hold on a sec, let me stop you right there.
Mm.
I've been involved with this for many years, and I've been down to the state, and I've been at a hearing, and not alone. Some people from town have been there at a hearing, and who do you see in that audience supporting 40B? The housing community, the developers, they all want it. So now to have sympathy for someone who
You're
is
talking about
costing.
people that built 500 units, 1,000 units.
Nonetheless,
they want.
there was nobody
Yeah,
other than
it's-
the
Yeah,
residents.
but that's a different animal.
objecting.
Of course they want that, because 75% of, these cities and towns, in the core belt,
And the small,
they have 25% they're operating at. 25% of the total housing stock being created in these 40Bs is for affordable, right?
Yeah.
75% is market rate.
yet,
Those projects are highly successful at 75%. These are great investments. These are some of the best investments out there. The 25% affordable, they're still making money on.
I don't
These are all rental.
I'm not
This is-
denying that.
This is different when you're talking
No,
small.
they're not all rental, excuse me for that.
Well,
They're not all rental.
And
And it
I'd
just
love to
seems-
talk about, you know, other projects and other places, but I'd like to bring it all back here and
Yeah.
focus on 51
Well,
West
the
Main.
point is that, yeah, I'm not sympathetic with, the small town or small developer should have been at that hearing. They all belong to this housing commission, and they're all members of it, whether you're big or small. And I didn't see anyone speak up that was a small developer. And it's a shame, because they're being shafted. If I was one, I'd be very disillusioned with it. Sure, you wanna do affordable housing, that's the right thing to do. These prices are ridiculous. Even people middle income can't afford some of them. They're outstanding. And now that we have someone here from the Affordable Housing Trust, says that we can have a unit, we shall have a unit, by damn, that's what we should go. The heck with this money.
Yeah, but, you know, this is another argument.
That's just my thought.
Well, this is another argument. One of the confrontations I had a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody bought one of these affordable housing units. Now, this happens everywhere, right? They bought one of these units. They were lucky enough to buy one of those units, got a heck of a deal at a low price, right? What do they wanna do 20 years later? They wanna sell that property at the same
At market
market
value.
rate. Oh, yeah. So they really wanna cash in. They want the double green stamp buy,
Well, they
and then they
can't.
want the double green stamp. And they hired a lawyer to argue that point. That happens
That was a
everywhere.
lot.
And
Yeah.
guess what? If you have somebody in here that's not paying attention, right, and they don't look back at these permits and
Oh.
how they're issued,
It's
They get
happened,
away
it's
with
happened
it.
here, Joe.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, so it's a double-edged
Paul can
sword.
tell you
Somebody
that's
that buys an affordable housing unit, oh, it's great for that moment. But when all their friends are buying market rate and whatever, they're doing sweat equity, they're able to buy low end. But over a 20, 30, 40-year period of time, those people, a lot of people, that's their main asset. That's the only thing that appreciated in value. But that person that bought affordable, it's not going anywhere, not
It actually
anywhere
does go
near.
up, it goes
It
up.
does,
according
No,
to-
I know, it goes up, Paul, but it does not go up anywhere
Not- it
near
doesn't
what
go up
the market,
exponentially,
no,
right,
no.
right.
It doesn't go up in any realistic manner that it makes for a good investment.
Okay, let's bring it on
Long-term
back.
investment.
Let's bring it on back. And Tilly brings up
It's
a
a
point.
big problem.
And the point is that
Shut off.
with the, let me finish.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely, and we'll talk about it.
By you having a unit, it doesn't mean it has to be luxury inside. Keep that in for affordable unit. You don't have to put the money like you will for a luxury apartment. Because it's mainly the outside that cannot be any different than any of the other units, and obviously they're not. They're all gonna be the same
I
outside.
believe it has to be indistinguishable.
It has to be indistinguishable. But the thing is that there's many ways contractors can cut corners
Yeah, you can put
and do a
plastic
good
in it
job.
instead of copper.
As
inside and save money. I mean,
we discussed with other boards, this
From
project is based on 7 market rate units, and
Allow-
that's how the
allow me to
finances
make
work.
kind of-
Yeah, you can put for Mike instead of Frank.
Well, let me ask, and I hear what Tilly's saying. Tilly's saying that in her interpretation of the board, even though it's a .7 number at this point, could arbitrarily say, you will provide an on-site unit, and there seems to be some justification in the bylaw for it. Is there any case for that among the board? I think Tilly would go yes for that. Where are we, folks?
I think it sounds to me like it would harpoon the whole thing.
Myself, I don't think it's appropriate at this point to change to move the goalposts. but-
I agree, because it's, you know, we've kind of had a certain level, and it's not their fault that they're going by what we have approved in the past,
Mhm.
but we should definitely consider going forward, maybe changing our,
Oh, yeah, I think
Or
the bu-
specifics,
the
but I
bylaw's a
hate to
mess. It's very difficult to.
throw it at the project now.
Bruce?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I think that, for the future, we'd like to get more affordable housing units, actual units than just money in the till.
Not doing anything.
Right.
Right, the money's not helping, but I don't think that this project, I don't know if one of these units is the right unit for an affordable unit. We may actually win even bigger if they sell higher. Think about it that way too. We may get more money in the till if they sell for 550, 600.
7.
Just saying.
Do I hear something?
And,
And I like the minimum, I like the,
Gamble.
and we would be in agreement with the minimum
the
that
minimum
was
as
proposed
specified
as
that was
based on
postulated.
500, so it would be the 20,000 minimum, and hopefully, for everybody involved, the price will
Hopefully
be
for
higher
more.
than 500.
If I could just go to Paul, what do you think of that? Do you think that would settle with what the trust would agree to or be in favor of?
It's really your call. I mean, if I had my druthers,
Mhm.
we get a unit. We don't need money. We need units. And that's because affordable housing doesn't depend on cash, it depends on something you can actually get into. And money is just a facility.
Maybe that's an option we could explore when we deal with.
Yeah,
Like,
I think,
If you got the 120,000, and then what you have in the tillers now, could that buy
Oh,
something
sure.
for 500,000?
it could, but we wouldn't do it because we buy units that are appropriate to somebody that is in the lower echelon of the income strata. So we're not selling, we're not
A
buying.
luxury unit, yeah.
We're not, we don't want luxury units for somebody that can't afford to maintain them.
I have another question. This being a condo, if
The
a
condo
unit.
fee, the condo
I
fee
was just
retail.
going there,
Yeah, I know.
someone would have to pay a condo fee.
I get it.
Could they afford that on top of their, so I think that these units might not be,
Gotcha.
we do need more units.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
But
if
it
maybe
sounds like
not
an
easy.
annual payment is the way that.
The condo fee
This
might.
is-
well, there is a formula, and that would be included in the cost.
Do we know what the condo fees are gonna be yet?
That it would be
impossible
Yeah, none of this,
Okay.
I've seen around 200, 250 is what
That's an average.
I've seen.
I think it'd be all of that, probably more.
Okay,
So just,
Where are
well,
alright, so
Well,
we're
so
on
we're
that
on
one.
the route.
Where
Where
we are, where I think we are, from what I've heard, is, that we would, propose, as I put in the letter, based on the formula that we've used in the past and as listed in in F here, F3, with a, floor of 20,000
per unit?
per unit.
Mhm.
So that would be the minimum, but it would be based on 4% of the actual purchase price, with security in the form of a mortgage, to the town, and the payments would be made as the units are sold.
John, is that workable
Yes.
from the planning board's perspective, from the town treasurer, holding the office, everything? That's workable?
one step above what I was talking about earlier, insofar as security is concerned.
Okay.
You know, they don't get to sell the property until the lien is released.
Gotcha.
Right.
Thoughts, ideas?
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Comfortable with it? Comfortable with it? Tilly, what do you have?
I think I talked about.
Oh, well, okay. Duly noted, duly noted.
I'm for the town.
Duly
And
noted.
they haven't broken ground yet, so all their plans, are you done with Concom yet? I don't even know where you stand, so there's a lot more in the makeup of your cost, like you had said, John. So you really don't know. And to me, I think supplying the unit is by far the easiest. You're gonna keep track of $20,000 every time you sell? Who's gonna do that?
Can I,
That is done.
one other thought.
I think that was a rhetorical question.
Okay, sorry.
One of the things that we're looking at doing is upgrading a unit in town to make it a livable house. Right now, it's not a house, it's a business of a kind. And one of the things that we were doing with another vendor is working with them so that they actually supply some of the labor to do the work, rather than provide any kind of monetary, because the work would be even, or the ability to get this thing done would be even more important than getting any kind of money.
Paul, does this apply directly to 51 West Main?
Only in the sense that it would be in lieu of getting any kind of money from.
Oh, the monies would be used, the
Yeah.
monies that we would receive
Right,
from
rather
this.
than getting
maybe-
money, we take it in labor from the developer to upgrade this house.
I understand. Okay. And that's something we have to work out.
Yeah, but there's something to throw out there, because that would work just as good as anything else, really.
In lieu of.
In lieu, yeah.
Labor's the hardest thing to come by.
It takes $140,000, $440,000 back.
Right,
To
it's good work.
Complicated,
So,
but
from what I'm hearing, with respect to the affordable housing component, it sure sounds like, John, you have a good idea of what we're talking about. You'll have no problem with creating some type of a blurb, if you will, for the conditions.
Mhm.
And we're pretty much all in favor of that, right?
Yep.
Great. Where are we with respect to, and I know we've done so much of a focus on the southern condos. Where are we more or less verbally, if you could help us out, the commercial building? What's the vision there?
The vision is office space on the second floor, commercial space in the form of maybe small retail, maybe office, maybe a small coffee shop kind of thing on the first floor. And that's what we've used for our parking calculation, and in doing so, we've kind of envisioned those uses that are on the higher end of the parking requirement, so that we would be sure to have enough space.
Requiring is the maximum amount of
Correct.
parking, so that no
Correct.
matter how you
But we're
configure
looking
it.
at an office, second floor, retail, maybe a coffee shop type of use on the first floor. Consumer service, personal service type of thing on the first floor.
What's the third floor?
Same as the second.
Same as the second.
Is that the actual vision, or is that
Yes,
just
It's a rendering.
it's a rendering.
that's it?
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Because we saw so many, and the addition to this historical looked very plain, no windows, no nothing on it.
No, that's really been the
It's gonna
The
be
rendering.
looking just like that.
right. And this one shows a little bit more landscaping, because it's been updated from our last meeting.
Is it alright if you
Easy
stop,
now.
you stop me if
Easy
I,
now.
you stop me if I,
Easy.
So this piece that you see here
Uh-huh.
is the addition that would be done in the back of this and go parallel to the street.
Mhm.
This is the existing building, completely restored. in that glass showcase thing that was built at one time or another in the front, will be, you know, that will be taken down and done the right way with the way it should look. This is an updated rendering with the help of the entire team, and Dad put a ton of time into it. If you remember some of the things that we talked about at the last meeting, so you see that here now. Notice I didn't say anything. You see that here. And I'm not gonna turn it around, but the other stuff that we talked about is down the side, so that's all been corrected. But all the architect, and all will all match the existing building.
Historically appropriate.
Right, and including, if you notice, even the townhouse trim and everything will blend into this to give it that whole
That's
look.
right.
Except you don't have the peaked roof or anything that you had originally on that addition, the 7 units.
Well, if you remember way
Right.
back, there was some asking to soften the back. So we softened the back, so you have multiple colors out here, and the back is all one color, and the roofs are not flat. That was a concern that you had brought up at one point.
Yeah.
The roofs are all slanted, but it's kind of almost like a pyramid look, so it's not like one big massive wall. 'Cause that was
Leveled?
And it was stacked.
yeah. It's like, John, what's the best way of
Staggered.
saying it? Thank you.
I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah. So it's not one big massive wall. So everyone seems that has looked at it, seems to like that. And to give you a little update, you had asked about the conservation, like where are we at with that?
Yeah.
So since our last planning board meeting, we were able to meet with Larry, we were able to get permission from conservation to do 6 test pits. We've done the 6 test pits, already got the results of that back, and Dad has already answered all that. And conservation gave us a suggestion on unit 6 and 7 for those, the septic tanks to be moved into one larger septic tank of unit 5, so 3 of the units would have one septic tank, so that would take one waiver away, that makes it more permeable for them to be able to do it. So we took that suggestion from their site walk, and that is already done since the last planning board meeting in the site walk.
Is
It's
that
already
incorporated in the new plans?
already incorporated in the
That
new
we got
plans.
Monday or whatever they were?
Right, that's already in the new plans.
That's already incorporated. And I don't mean to cut you off, but while we're talking about the plans that we received Monday, I'd like the board to, give John permission to send those plans to Larry Graham. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, for
Aye.
review?
Yep.
Okay, John?
And I have them here tonight for when the board.
Oh, we get to look at them too? That's so cool. Please.
We
Along with
tried,
this
we tried to take everything that was talked about at the last meeting and incorporate in that. So I think the last meeting was, not that tonight wasn't phenomenal, but the last meeting was phenomenal on that work meeting that we had. It gave us a lot of guidance, and we did all that.
Or if I could just interrupt you, do we have those in PDF?
Yes.
We have those in
Yep,
PDF?
all ready to go.
If we can send them out,
Yep.
that would be fantastic, thank you, sorry. I'm
Right.
scatterbrained, I have to think of it when I think of it, or,
And only because we talked about it at the last meeting, and I know there's some neighbors here.
oh, we'll be taking.
We
contact,
did,
absolutely.
we did away with the driveway. If you're looking at the property to the left-hand side,
Good, so much better.
so there's no driveway there, there's fence, there's trees. Yeah, we can't show it. We can't show it because they didn't get it a number of days in advance.
We wanna leave something for next time.
Yeah.
So there's
Only
fence,
pictures.
there's all sorts of trees, and there's just a sidewalk, because there was concern of the residents being able to walk to the street without having to go through the parking, so we were able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so it worked out well.
I look forward to looking at it,
But emergency vehicles can go around that other side of the building, right? Is
I'll
that
be
what
able
you-
to access it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
But you brought up a good point about the residents
agree on
and butters.
I think you're done with me,
Official
right?
first. What?
You're done with me, right?
For this hearing, yes, but for later.
Let me hand out cheat sheets then, so give you guys a little bit of a heads up on where the world is at, besides Georgetown.
Thanks.
We
Well, we're gonna have the
We're gonna
amendments,
have
we're
a
gonna talk
discussion
about.
later for this,
Yeah.
it's on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is just,
Oh,
this,
okay, while
this
you're
just
up here.
pertains to this one.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Gotcha. It was nice meeting you all.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Is there any comment from the general public, the butters, or did anyone want to speak?
Yes.
Please, sir, say, you have to stand up and come
Yeah.
forward. We're not filming
Right.
tonight, we're filming with that.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely, sure, sorry, Nancy.
We haven't been able to present the revised plans tonight, because the chair would prefer that we not do it because they didn't make the
They didn't
timing.
get in
They
7
didn't get
days
in in
early.
time. However, we do have them with us, and we're happy to show them to you in detail after the meeting outside, so that you'll be able to see them.
Where should I go?
Could you just say your name,
Yep,
if you have a question
Stu
or something?
Krupnik, 55 West Main.
Hi.
So I'd like to make a comment tonight.
Please.
Do it here, okay. I'm gonna look at my phone, so I'm not being rude, that's where my notes are, so.
Do you want to come up a little bit?
Yeah, we
Turn
can
the
hear
camera
you.
so that this gentleman can. Turn
What
the
is your
camera.
name again, sir?
Stu Krupnik, 55 West Main.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks.
much.
So I'm here with my wife Tricia, and as I said, we're at 55 West Main, and you've seen us at all the previous meetings, so you know how important this is to us. I think as the probably the abutter who has the most at stake with this project, and we just want to make sure, we've been consistent from the beginning that we're for development next door, but we just want to make sure that it's done right and that it's not something that's detrimental to our property and to our property value. So that's why we continue to be involved. And thank you for turning that proposed driveway into emergency, because that takes a lot off our minds. So thank you. So the reason I'm speaking is a few of us went on a site walk last week with Steve from the Conservation Commission. So Peter and Barbara, Peter's wife, and Kelsey, who couldn't be here today. She's on Main Street. And we saw that there's stakes in the ground which marks where the buildings are going to be located. And I'm talking specifically about the townhouses. And I've seen the plans from the beginning, and I know that the one building is extremely close to the property line. I think it's something like 8 feet from our property line. But until we got out there and saw the stakes in the ground, it was it was shocking, and it made us nervous that this 8 feet, there's going to be this 3-story structure, and most of the trees will be gone on that side of the property. And then on our side of the property, Steve was saying that as they dig, there's a chance that the roots will be cut from our trees, which would ultimately, take them. It could possibly take them down. So, so we're very concerned about losing all privacy, because the trees potentially could be completely gone all along the property line where the building is. And then there's also no fence, or there's nothing keeping people at the townhouses from coming on our property, especially as close as they'll be. I mean, there'll be a patio that'll be extremely close. And I can envision people walking across our lawn to go to Richdale, or kids coming on our property playing, and vice versa when we have kids on our property playing. So what we're asking for is some type of safety, security fence going from at least our garage all the way to the back to keep people from going on our property. And then at least some type of privacy screening that if those trees will be gone, something so when we're sitting on our back deck, we're not looking right up at a three-story building.
Well, I assure you, when we do look at the plans, and when Larry Graham, our engineer, looks at the plans, and look at those aspects very, very carefully.
Yeah.
With respect to the abutter with you there and that whole rundown.
Thanks. Now, is there, just curious, is there I assume there's some rule about how close a a structure can be to a property line.
That was, this is a special permit that was permitted, those setbacks that are in place, that's all part of the special permit that was issued by the ZBA.
And they do comply with the bylaw requirement,
Yeah.
we did not seek a variance.
Yeah, this is, you're in the A district, there's very little,
So there was a variance requested?
No,
no, it was
I
unnecessary.
thought it was from the front,
no,
that's
this
all.
is a special permit, we did not request a dimensional relief.
What's the side setback in the,
10, is it?
5 feet?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's like 5 feet or
The
something.
question I have,
Sure.
you know, I'm trying to envision where your house is, and how close from the rear of your house is the closest point of the townhouse? Do we know that?
We know if we can look at the plan.
Well, we'll have to take that up next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an
I mean, is
opportunity for
it
you to
your
do a
backyard
walk, a site walk, you'll see, there are stakes in the ground and you'll see exactly.
So the question I have, is it your immediate back of your house
You wanna look at the
to
old plan?
the immediate point of the townhouse, or is it in the backyard? of
Yeah, it's
your
more the
property?
backyard is what
I'll
I'm.
bring those to you.
So it's more in the backyard, we should get a better.
It's hard,
We'll
I'm not an
take
expert
that.
at reading the plans, so
Yeah.
it's hard,
Certainly.
and once again, it's hard for me to envision, I've looked at the plans, but it's hard to really picture it, and so it really became clear to us, and I know Peter's gonna speak as well, how just close the buildings are, and then if it was a patio or a one story, that's one thing, but to have this 3-story, that's going to be,
It's going to be a considerable structure.
Mr. Chairman, this may be an appropriate time when we do adjourn from this part of the agenda for them to go present their plans.
I'll find another place, and
Yeah, the second
they
one
have no
downstairs
7-day
is-
requirements, we do.
Yeah, so they might be able to work out something,
Sure.
and if
Absolutely.
anything sticks out as a thorn, you can come back and tell us.
Always
We'll still be
encourage
here.
yeah, but I would
direct
like if there, you know,
conversation.
if there's some type of screening, fencing, both, I would like
We
that to be
talked about
part of
that
this.
previously.
And we'll
part of this,
certainly look at the new
decision.
plans
It's
to
Yeah, I
to
thought
take
they,
that into consideration, so.
didn't you
absolutely.
supply, privacy? I thought I
We had no,
remembered that.
we had
Not
no
in the back.
problem with the fence.
Yeah,
There's
There
just
was
not
a
one in the
time-
plan in the back,
but-
that's all.
but-
Are there any other new
I do,
comments
can
from
I
the
ask a
public?
question
Sure,
from you,
sure.
Mr. Chair, to, Mr. Krupnik? I just wanna make sure that I understood him correctly, there was a site walk that took place with Steve Brzezinski from the Conservation Commission with
Okay.
abutters without our knowledge or our permission, I just wanna make sure on the record that I'm hearing this correctly.
we weren't there.
No, I know, that's why I'm just asking,
So
did
this
you
is
this
Mr.
I
gentleman?
can't speak
Yeah,
to if
I
there was,
tried
permission or not, it was an offer.
Mr.
We couldn't make the,
It was addressed
the sidewalk with the Conservation Commission, and so the Conservation Commission said it could be, open to the abutters, and Steve offered to, take us at a separate time, so that's,
At the meeting.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a
Okay,
question?
sounds like
through
this
this?
was all done at a public meeting, so you'll probably have to review the minutes of that public meeting. Thank you, sir, thank you. Did you say something, Jim?
No, that's okay, thank you.
Sir, would you say
Hi,
your
my
name
name's
for the?
Peter
for the-
Angelopoulos, 11 Prospect Street. It's situated right behind 55 West Main, Prospect in my corner. And like Stu was saying, when you see where the stake is in the ground for that building's corner, it's 25 feet from my backyard fence, which I do know the distance from the house is 150 feet. That's not the point. The point is that when I'm enjoying myself in the backyard, I'm not staying up at the house. I'm using the entire backyard area. When you walk down to, I have a horseshoe pit in the very back. I will now be able to talk to my 3-story neighbor, being 25 feet away. I mean, that's less than from here to that corner. I don't know if you could build a fence big enough so that we didn't see each other,
Probably.
but there are trees there, and Stu has a bunch of trees on his property that right now, if I am closer up to the house, I probably wouldn't see the 3-story building. But like Stu said, once they cut into the ground, those big trees are gonna fall down over time.
Let me summarize here. You're asking us to make sure that they're very, very careful with the trees.
Yes. And then maybe plant some other trees along the
Certainly
fence
something we
line.
could look at, certainly something we could look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Is there anyone else that would like to make a public, from the public that would like to make a comment? Being none, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
just to help the cause a little bit, there's, when you see the plans,
You're not gonna try to show me a plan?
no,
Okay.
not gonna sneak anything in. There is plenty of trees, with the direction of this board from the last meeting, plenty of new trees being planted. Also, the reason that we put the stakes in, most contractors would have not,
Yes.
specifically for this reason. We did to make it very simple and nice for anyone to be able to see exactly what's
Reality.
happening.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Reality.
It's one
yeah.
thing to see paper, it's another.
Paper
So
is
we,
impossible.
so we did that on purpose to help the cause. We want to keep as many of the natural, for lack of better terms, natural trees that are there that we possibly can, because it makes everyone's life easier. When it comes to fencing, if everyone remembers these meetings over time, we wanted fencing, they didn't. Okay, we'll take the fencing away. All right, now we want fencing, okay, we'll put it back. So we have fencing,
That was in the front, that's,
we
That
have
was in the
fencing.
front.
We're going to look
Right.
at the fencing, we're going to look at the buffering.
So we have no problem, we have fencing there to the point where we thought people wanted it. If we need to go a little farther, again on record, we have no problem with that. We wanna be good neighbors, we know that this is obviously a change in the back. But when it comes to bettering the neighborhood and the property values and doing the right thing next door, I would have this next door to me if I lived where they lived, because it's only gonna help.
The front part, you are
Excuse me,
absolutely
sir.
right.
Would you state your name?
Peter Angelopoulos, 11 Prospect Street. He
Did
is
you-
correct. The front part where they wanna redo where Settler's building was, that will make the other property look better. But if you're in my backyard and you're looking at a 3-story condo, 7
Excuse me, sir.
across.
Paul?
Bob,
Are you staying for the discussion later?
Excuse me?
Are you staying for the discussion later?
I didn't realize that.
It's on the agenda, yeah,
Okay,
if you wouldn't mind.
alright.
Sorry, my apologies, sir.
No, it's okay. That will definitely bring down my property value because someone's gonna look at my house and say, well, I don't wanna sit in the backyard and be looking at a condo looking at me. And it is only our properties that that condo is extremely close to. On the other side, they're 100 feet away because of the wetland. It's our side that's being affected, and it's pretty much just Stu and I. That's why you're not seeing a lot of people here, because to them, they're 300-400 feet away, 30, 40, 50 yards away. Okay, it's not a big deal, but it is to Stu and I.
Sir, and I understand where you're coming from, and I can tell you, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that, the applicant, does as much buffering and separation and diminishes that effect as much as possible.
Thank you.
Is there, John?
Hey, just one other point of caution as we go into the next meeting, and whatever that is, we don't know yet. But Larry Graham did make it he pointed out to me, you still have to try to accommodate to the extent possible your difference with the stormwater management aspects of the plan. So continue working with them.
Has Larry received these plans,
Yeah, so,
these new plans? The ones that we got Monday or something?
He probably has an electronic copy. I don't think he has a hard copy. I haven't delivered a hard copy to him.
Okay.
But just because he's been so involved, there's still an engineering difference between
Okay.
your engineering.
Even on the
and-
new plans, is something,
I-
well,
I need-
Larry will square that up, I'm sure.
so I,
That just left, so.
So with John's statement, I just would like to say this to the board. There is an engineering difference. And we respect Larry, and he's helped a great deal on fine tuning some things. But that engineering difference is gonna come to, you know me, I put it on the table, is gonna come to this next meeting.
Okay.
I'm not going to do this in something that I believe, with my experience and my team, is gonna cause problems in the future. So, there's going to be a difference in these two engineers.
Sounds like it's something that's, and this happens from time to time, with some engineering differences where, it comes back to the engineers talking at the meeting with us here, and then we make some kind of a decision or a compromise or something to that effect. And we've already gotten to the point where we said, Larry, please look at these new plans, as we'll be looking at them. And if there's nothing else, how about a continuation? How does that sound, folks?
Very good.
And John, what do you suggest?
Well,
Now,
get two
because-
choices.
Yeah,
Okay, and we'd have to really be realistic with this, okay? So our next meeting is the 23rd of October, and then thereafter is the 13th of November.
And Mr. Chair, we're done, we have no more work to do except to present to you.
right, I wanna make sure that, when Larry does get those hard copies, that he has enough time to really look at this and make sure that his review is done, so that he can come to this next one, maybe you can work something out, or Thad can work it out. If you can't work that out, he's gonna have to give us time to read his report, and we're gonna have to have him here with Thad, and they can hash it out, and, you know, throw in
What
the
if
steel
they don't?
cage, and, so I wanna make sure they have enough time.
What if they don't?
If they don't, then we make the call, that's how it works.
We're the jury.
Then we're the jury, they can,
Yeah,
And
we'll
the-
hear from both parties.
The other thing that we did to make it very easy,
cause we tried the thing with the arm wrestling and that didn't.
Larry, I'm sure you guys saw that Larry did a very neat handwritten with all his things. So we used that and spoon fed it in a good sense and went right in that order. So it's very simple to review.
It's a response letter that'll go with the revised plans, that everybody will get a copy of before we
Okay,
meet
we haven't
tonight.
seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
We
was
would
one of
prefer
the.
the October 23rd, if that's at all
Okay,
possible.
so what are we looking at here? Our next is October
31st.
twenty-third?
And at the board's direction, I'll,
Okay.
hand deliver those plans to him tomorrow, so he'll have,
Mr.
You
Chairman,
think that's gonna be enough time for him?
I hope so.
What else is on the 23rd, Jim?
The 23rd, we have right here, it's only. 196 Main Street's coming back,
Yeah.
and 554 North Street would like to come back for a conceptual review
It's gonna be a busy night.
only.
It's gonna be a busy night. When you guys aren't done with Concom anyway, right? You're not done with Concom.
Very close.
Okay,
Yeah,
but,
And we're with them next week.
Yeah,
would
I
get it next week?
confirmed that today.
Yeah.
You're actually pretty close.
Yeah, the sidewalk was a tremendous
Mhm.
help.
so,
The 23rd of October.
23rd of October or 13 November. I don't wanna load up on the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
More than 2 hearings is too much.
So,
I really like the November 13th date.
so Mr. Chairman, can I just
Sure, Jim.
reiterate here? So 196 Main, we're probably gonna spend some time on that one,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because we may get to the point where
It's
the board wants to
moved
make a
along.
decision on it.
Yep.
554 is a conceptual review only. All the applicant wants to do is to show the board in a schematic, and he's only gonna be here by himself.
Okay.
What he's planning to do now, and that's the proposed transfer of 4 acres of the back pit, to the, green.
This is morphing into an OSRD?
Yeah, so he just wants to have a conceptual review relative to what they're proposing now, but to also hear the board and what the board may want him to submit, insofar as an OSRD in place of what he's proposing.
My concern is that we're gonna take up so much time that we won't have adequate time to have a very comprehensive next meeting for this, which could potentially close this out. And I don't wanna be in a rushed state if we're at the point where we can close it out. I'm still
you
thinking
work
that,
everything out with Larry before you come.
well, that's why I'm saying the 13th of November,
I-
we give them plenty of time to work it out.
Yeah,
Well, what-
So I'll accept the motion to continue for November 13th.
Mr. Chairman, I move to continue the site plan review public hearing for 51 West Main Street, date specific to November 13th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Bob Watts, seconded by Joanne Love, to continue to November 13th, 2019. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We'll continue, and we'll continue it out to November 13th.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate all the
you,
time.
thank you, gentlemen, everyone,
This was
thank you,
good.
folks, thank you.
Good conversation.
Getting
Yep, we'll
close.
move- Progress, progress. 11:13.
Do you guys wanna see some of this outside?
Yeah.
Can we take a quick 5-minute break? Oh, let's do that, let's do that. Huh? Oh, are we good? Good to go, okay. So, we're back with the planning board meeting, October 9th. Let's go to planning office. The first thing on the, planning office agenda is the proposed review of chapter 16571, the inclusionary housing balance bylaw. And I believe it's John, but John just stepped out for a second. As everybody knows, we have a handout. This is a handout. This is what it looks like. I think everybody's looking at it.
Which version do you have? Yours looks different from mine.
That should be the same version. We have a handout that John gave us.
This came from John too.
It just
And
has a cover.
Yeah, we're
It's
just
the
looking
one-
at we're just looking at a cover sheet.
Okay.
Essentially, it is the same thing. It's the printout. It looks like we took it directly from the website. I'm sure we'll all.
Well, I took one from the website, but that's,
165.7, inclusionary housing balance.
well, they all say that.
Hmm?
The question
I think you have the same thing with just the fonts a little bit
Yeah, maybe
larger,
so, maybe
which
so.
is a great thing. I wish I had
Yeah,
that, so I
yeah.
wouldn't need my glasses, but. Bear in mind, the goal here tonight, is to, a couple weeks ago, what the board asked John to do was to, begin the hearing process and advertising. We have not yet done that. I've spoken to John. Many things happening in the office, and, this will have to go to town meeting. There's no way we're gonna make this special town meeting, which is, what is it, October 28th or something like that?
Yeah, 20th.
So, this is gonna have to go to the Springtown meeting. We'll certainly open the hearing. Before he wants to open a hearing, notice a hearing and make it public, what he would like to do is, follow the model that we took for the, what's it called? The erosion control bylaw. The erosion control bylaw regulations, basically, we set up a subcommittee that went in, rolled the sleeves up, did all of the heavy lifting, came forward with a product that was a decent product to work with as a beginning draft, with many of the changes all touched upon. And then, that subcommittee, once we opened the hearing, the subcommittee presented the draft out of subcommittee to the full board, and then the full board looked at everything, made some additional changes, and continued the hearing on it, and then voted on it. We will, John, I'm sorry, just to bring it up to speed, just talking about the inclusionary housing bylaw.
Yep.
While we still have Paul here, thanking him for hanging around. Just basically saying that we're going to be, you thought it best if we created a subcommittee, which would create a draft that could then, we hold the hearing, we open the hearing, we present the draft, and now it's better for the public because the public actually has something to look at when we do the notice. There's proposed draft regulations that naturally we can turn around, and at the public hearing, we take public comment, we take our comment, we come up with a final draft, what we'd like to see, and then at that point, we continue until we get to the point where town meeting is ready, for inclusion on the warrant at the Springtown meeting, the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
Basically.
You have a great timeline for general work. Is this on the timeline? It might be a good idea to make sure that we're not gonna miss it.
Yeah, no, we're starting early enough. I mean, it is October. As I pointed out in the staff report for both items that we're gonna talk about tonight, these committees these subcommittees of the planning board and other members of the public, we may want to include other town officials in these committees. Try to keep them small. We'll probably end up having 3 meetings per issue. I'm just casting that out, it's probably a minimum.
That's the outside. I think that's on the outside, don't you?
Could be. I mean, you know, we covered a lot of ground in a short period of time with,
I think we did
yeah.
essentially two good ones, two good subcommittee meetings. We hammered out a lot for the erosion control bylaw regulations.
With two very experienced people in subject matter, so, you know, we have a strong basis to start with.
And Julie and I actually agreed at the end of it, which
Thanks.
It's
Yeah.
the
which,
millennium.
which shows you how great they are. They obviously are compromised.
Except we're not done, we have to put that into the subdivision regs.
We do, you do have a
That
good
has
point,
to be on the
all of
list.
all of the changes, as far as the new standards do have to be incorporated into our subdivision regulations at some point, we'll look at that, but let's deal with let's deal with inclusionary housing, let's deal with courts and lanes, and that'll be on our to-do list, that's our Christmas wish list.
So for this particular one, you know, we wanna have at least 2 board members, and Paula, I don't know if you wanna volunteer for it, and, you know, I'm thinking I can be flexible with Mondays and Tuesday nights.
Okay.
One Tuesday night a month is the rec path committee, and that's usually the 4th, Tuesday evening.
Can I ask a question, is it possible for a subcommittee of the planning board to have more than 2 members of the planning board? Could it be 3 members?
Well, you have to advertise, and every meeting is advertised.
Right.
You could.
Is that?
It's a quorum,
is-
but all official action of board, we're doing administrative stuff, we're not making decisions.
Right.
You know, we're
Not
dealing with
deliberating.
zoning, yeah, we're dealing with zoning, it's like the CIP, in a lot of communities, you have 3, 4 members of the planning board and other members. But, yeah, we can do that if you want.
Okay, so,
You know, it's all a matter of time, who has the time, who considers this a subject matter they really wanna delve into. You know, it's more of a deep dive than it is, you know, just talking about it in the periphery. You have to, you know, figure things out, feel comfortable with it, and then move on with the recommendation to the full board. What I'm getting at is that, 2 members of this planning board may want to deal with the inclusionary, and either 2 or 3 members with, the courts and lanes, or vice versa.
well, let's focus on the inclusionary first. Who would wanna be on this board? Or from us?
I'll be on the inclusionary,
Be on
but I
inclusionary?
need strong guidance.
Which is
Me.
why I would highly recommend that, Paul, you be on it,
Yeah,
because this is where the rubber will hit the road,
right,
this is where the change.
so we don't end up with meetings like this again tonight.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
In one of those meetings, if I could suggest, we may wanna try to have your committee, Georgetown Affordable Housing Trust, to meet with the subcommittee, you know, so your group as a whole.
Yeah, that's, the only way that's probably going to happen is if they show up, if we can roll it into one of our meetings, cause we have a hard time even making quorum, and everybody there is a trustee, and they treat it like a bank trustee. They don't participate necessarily except for voting on measures.
I know what you're talking about.
When
It's
are
tough
your
to make
meetings?
them.
When are your meetings?
They're usually like the first Wednesday of the month.
Okay, and we're the second one, so that would work, okay.
And John, does that fit in your schedule? Cause I mean, you're the one that's gonna have to take, minutes and
You know,
do all the,
usually Mondays work best, that's my open night
okay.
every week. And the only thing that interrupts that is a rare occasion, I have to go to the Board of Selectmen. Tuesday nights, work great, except for the 4th Tuesday.
Okay.
Thursday, except for the 4th Thursday.
Okay.
Wednesdays don't work.
Wednesdays don't work,
Yeah.
okay. So that might make it very difficult to meet with the trust.
But that doesn't mean I have to be there, though.
Right,
Yeah.
we wouldn't necessarily only meet with the trust.
Right.
If we had a meeting or 2 with the trust.
And then,
Yeah.
then we can move it to a Monday where
Yeah,
Tuesday, where you.
and you know what we could do, you know, if you only have Wednesday to deal with, Andrea, we could get her to, come in. This is probably one of the subject matters she's more knowledgeable about, having dealt with it in
Yeah,
the past.
so she has,
We
But you're only meeting once a month.
We meet once a month and
Yeah.
if the meetings last an hour or an hour and a half, that's a long time.
Mhm.
And we come in and we do the wrap vouchers, we look at the projects that are going on, and then people are gone. They're not, trying to get somebody to analyze this and come back with recommendations is gonna be like pulling teeth.
Mhm.
Diana will certainly do it, and I've been doing it.
Mhm.
But I think
You have a
if we
leg
give-
up there with
if we
you.
give them the finished product and have them, we might be able to get a review
Mhm.
if we give them a semi-finished product.
Okay, so,
The
well,
draft
how
of
about,
some sort.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking too that, you know, we have professional services line item in our budget, you know, to have, an affordable housing, professional come in and, give a presentation of what really is going on out there, and, just so that we're up to speed with everything.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
maybe that would be your initial first meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe that's your initial first meeting?
Who did the,
Yeah.
housing update?
Lynn Sweet.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking of, I'm trying to think timeline here now. It sounds like, we're a little bit constrained with working with the remainder of the trust, and trying to get them on board at a meeting. But if, let's say November was the first meeting of this subcommittee, then assuming we jumped out to November, December could be tough, but that would be the second one. That would mean your third meeting would probably be in January at some point.
I guess there is something to get everything done. There's a lot of, like you just ran into this meeting, there's a contradiction, or at least there's pieces missing, like why did you go down to the off-site as opposed to staying in?
And all of those things need to be worked out.
There
best in
must
subcommittee.
be a couple of dozen of them.
And Paul, you're familiar with them, and that's why it would be really, really helpful. You, Diana is an ex officio, or however you
Yeah,
like to look at it.
she's our
And
administrator.
she's your administrator too, so
Yeah.
if you had her with us, John, if you couldn't make a meeting, Diana's right there. So I mean, as far as, town support.
Well, you were implying though that the trustees are not as active engaged. And I'm wondering, is there a lot of value in having them involved early?
No,
So maybe early on, we should meet with the
The
consultant.
professional, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
And you, yeah.
We need to know what's wrong with the way it's structured. I mean, right now, it's a hot mess. So, we know that off-site is confusing. If we had like a summary of, these are the pieces of this is what we're trying to accomplish in each one, and this is where the problems are.
Bob, is
We
what
could
you're
do it.
saying, that first meeting,
Yeah.
that first meeting is identification of problem areas.
Yeah,
Right.
And
so we can,
you don't walk out of
get
that meeting
information.
until you have all the problem areas identified. You don't have to have them solved,
right,
you have to have them identified. And then, it sounds like, that identified areas go to the professional comes in for the second meeting.
okay.
With suggestions, modifications, everybody works on their own too.
Does
For the second.
DHCD have someone to come out?
I don't know if they do that kind of service or not. I can try to find out.
Yeah, I think they would.
Might
They
be
used to.
You know,
Because-
And when the professional comes out for the second, at that point, you should be walking out of there with something of
Some kind of
value.
draft,
Some
yeah.
kind of draft. Third meeting, bring everybody together. Try to
Right.
make that third meeting the one with any of the Affordable Housing Trust members that do have schedules that allow them to attend. And at that
professional-
point,
Yeah, but if.
bring it to meeting.
In reading through this a few times, the professionals do like to complicate things, with, like lawyers love to use wording and whatever.
Where
that
do floors
the
and
general
and
public
twos?
doesn't understand or whatever. But the biggest problem in there's too many options, okay, so you cut out the options and you arrive, whether it's 10% or 15%. I would suggest that if it's home ownership, condos, or single-family homes, it's a 10% figure. Then that's upfront, that's not outrageous, it's not a deal killer either, with these projects. So they figure 10% has got to go towards affordable housing, whether it's in lieu of or it's an actual unit. I think what we really need to focus in on, we can get this from the professionals, when you're dealing with projects of 20 or more units of housing, it's easy for a developer to, here, you're gonna have one of those units is going to be, for affordable, and you work out that deal. Anything less than that, it's complicated. They're willing to give 10% of a sum total, as we did tonight, but to give a whole unit, that creates a problem unless it's a big enough project. So,
Well, it's actually, if you look at what the other towns are doing, they go usually 5, anything over 5 requires another unit. So what I would recommend
So
is.
it's actually 20, it's 20%.
Yeah, 20%, yeah, if you go like that. In fact, it was in Chelmsford, the 5th house has to be affordable, so that's 25%.
But,
And this is all stuff that,
yeah,
I relish this conversation, but I think this is a conversation that
That
the
we would have
subcommittee should have, and hammer this all out and figure it out and bring it back to this board,
Yeah.
reporting back to John.
But
And-
you gotta,
And
you
with a
gotta-
target of January opening for the hearing.
yeah.
Because we need to have that hearing open so that we can conduct the business, so that we make the warrant. Or if we miss that January opening, we don't get on the warrant.
you can put a placeholder in.
Yeah, that's right. We can be on the warrant as a placeholder much later into the game. And we've had to do that for this coming one.
Okay. But
I got one.
But something
one
like this is a
objection to
zoning.
that. Yeah,
and we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have to hold
Yeah.
the hearing within a certain period of time before that time.
we had a professional, we had Nick Cracknell as the planner. He's the one who composed this, he's the one who made the amendments. When we had we did have a consultant come, and what happened was, she was selling her job. She wanted us to hire her, and that, to me, was not beneficial to us at all. So,
Tilly, can I just interject? I mean, you do a great job in researching what other towns have, so we really need some good examples of.
you can't compare us to Chelmsford. I'm
No,
sorry,
but
it's another
you know what,
town, but.
you always
Yeah.
go for comparables.
You look at the mean,
Yeah.
you establish a mean.
Yeah, but you go for comparables. I mean, you have all the comparable communities that are sophisticatedly operating on this particular issue all around us, and they're all similar in size. So we could just draw on what they have going on for their inclusionary housing.
That's what I did with the 3, I went online and Googled it,
Yeah,
and those 3 are the only ones that popped up. And so that's what I used,
But a
because I was looking
professional
for,
will have more, access to that.
excuse me?
A professional will have access to more
Probably see more of
communities
them.
and.
Yeah, I mean, like
and
Groveland
what they're
and
doing.
Raleigh and.
yeah,
They do it every day.
Ipswich,
Well,
yeah.
certainly sounds
well,
like.
I would
we
try
need to-
DHCD first, number
They
one.
may be helpful as well.
Yeah.
Because they have to get all of these affordable from the whole state, so they would give you, good direction.
So let's back up a little bit. So let's try to schedule a first meeting at least. Appoint what members are gonna be on it, on the committee.
Okay.
And our first goal for that meeting will be to have a good sampling of other communities that have inclusionary housing bylaws. And just, at that first meeting.
And
we'll
also
go through-
identify all the
Yeah.
problems in the existing.
Yeah, so I'll produce a quick staff report attached with, or have attachments of all these other communities, their bylaws, right?
Excellent.
And you can start reading up on it, and for that first meeting, we'll be, ready to
Ready to rock
do
the
some
ground running.
comparisons.
I think we're gonna need more than one meeting a month, I'll tell you that right now.
That's very possible, that's very possible.
Because there's nothing gonna be done without it.
You folks have to be done by January, in my opinion. If you're not, if the new year rolls out and you guys don't have something really ready,
Yeah.
But it needs to
I
be.
think we're gonna fail.
When is the warrant, when is warrant,
The 28th is out.
of January?
That's
Oh,
what-
that's the full one, I'm sorry.
It's a May meeting.
We
so-
have to
May
hold
meeting, the
hearings, we
first-
have to
first one.
advertise, we have to hold the hearing, we have to open the hearing, we
Yeah.
have to move
You,
forward,
you
so.
do have to be done with things by March. You can get away with your public hearings late as
Yeah.
middle of
You can
March.
meet.
Middle of March, really?
Because what it looks like for us,
Huh?
getting things ready, we're probably gonna have this as a zoning ordinance to propose along with the inclusionary.
Right.
I don't believe we're gonna really have anything else other than that.
I can't envision anything else.
We're not gonna be responsible for anything CBD wise. Board of Health.
That's Board of
might.
Health regulations.
Right, and they may or may not get around to it, who knows?
And the regulations don't need to go to town meeting. They don't have to go to town meeting
No.
with regulations.
No.
Any more than we do. So, does someone, so, Joanne, Bob, Tilly, you wanna be on that committee?
Yeah, I will, but I tell you, once a month is not gonna do it.
Well,
Well, why
I
don't we
think-
see how we,
Yeah, after the first.
Let's have that
Let's
first
appoint the
meeting.
committee, and then,
Because
You folks
you're
are
right,
responsible.
I think it's gonna be too challenging.
I have been working on this a long time.
Right, and I
And
can see
I
this
would
is
say
a hot
years, haven't we, Paul?
Yeah.
We've been working on this, how long have you
Every
been on this?
time we do a development, we come up with changes to the inclusionary bylaw and they never make it in.
Right.
And so we end up with the copy
Yeah.
that I had tonight that actually lets you guys do anything you want, really. But-
just make it
maybe,
simple.
maybe that might be
Simple
hard.
is the answer.
Black and white, simple,
Because-
don't make it gray.
Because there shouldn't be this much confusion among the
You
board
know?
members.
Welcome to writing legislation and making sausages. Does someone wanna make a motion to appoint a subcommittee to propose draft revisions to the inclusionary housing bylaw?
I make a motion to create a subcommittee to make a draft for the inclusionary housing balance ordinance.
Bylaw, it's not an ordinance.
Alright,
Cross that out. We're not a city, we're a town.
Second.
So, motion has been made by Joanne to create the subcommittee. I'm gonna truncate. Bob seconded. Is there any discussion?
It's a zoning bylaw.
It's a zoning bylaw. All in favor of creating the committee, say aye. Aye. Okay, now let's appoint members. And why don't we just take volunteers?
I
Who'd like
volunteer.
to volunteer?
I
Let the record show that Bob Watts, Joanne Loud,
And me.
and Tilly Evangelista all volunteer for the committee.
Okay.
And,
It wasn't a big
and Paul Nelson also.
Paul.
And,
Joanne.
can you think of anything else?
Let's pick a date.
Yeah, that's
For
such a
November.
meeting.
Oh, okay, there you go. There you go. So, John, what do you think?
Did I hear November?
Yes,
Okay.
and at the first meeting, we don't need the trustees, so we don't have to do a Wednesday.
You really have to realize that the trustees are not into the technical details of this stuff at all.
We'll just show it to them when it's done.
Yeah, exactly, because they won't read it.
I'm sure they may have,
Send them the
interest.
cover page.
This might be just what you need to stimulate the interest.
I would,
No, I don't think so.
I would suggest, okay, either Monday, the 11th of November, or Tuesday, the 12th, take into consideration, we meet on the 13th of November.
November 11th is Veterans Day.
Yeah, is that a holiday?
Yeah, I can't
For
do
you,
that.
not for
You
me.
were not a veteran, John?
No, I am.
Oh, you are.
I don't
He's
worry
just
about
really dedicated to his work, that's what it
Shame.
is.
Thank you for your service.
Something was ringing, something was ringing.
Well, you said the
Okay.
12th is a full moon, so I think that's a good one.
All
I
right,
love
that
full
sounds
moons.
good.
Favorite
So,
November the 12th.
astrological
so I have to check the calendar, but it
Tuesday.
gets tentative.
celestial body.
So,
You like it?
who's, you gonna be the head honcho?
No, not the, I don't know. We don't have
Somebody-
to
somebody
do
said
that.
We're gonna pick one on November 12th.
That's good, November 12th.
Okay, so,
7 o'clock
All in favor, well, did I hear a motion to, hold your first meeting on
on November 12th.
November 12th at,
7 p.m.
seven P.M.?
Second floor
And,
meeting.
and for John to post said meeting.
7
supposed to
o'clock.
be, yeah.
First, so Joanne, you made that motion?
I make a motion that we have our first meeting November 12th, 7 o'clock, second floor, town hall.
And
Second that.
Second that? all in favor of, what Joanne said, say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0. So that'll be the first meeting. Great, that's the inclusionary housing bylaw. Paul, can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really can't thank you enough, Paul.
You're gonna be,
You're the
You're by finding him some units to buy.
yeah,
Yeah.
make it happen,
How about
make it happen. Okay, so,
CVS?
so
No,
now,
in terms of buying, never mind. I'm just throwing that out.
The rentals, right?
Trestle Wave?
No, CVS. Once CVS
Actually,
is done.
we are looking at, I think it's gonna be okay, we're gonna actually not, they won't give us any money, but we will have 2 units in there that'll be affordable for 10 years.
Great.
And with the proviso that we can actually re-up that at the end of 10 years. The DHCD said we could probably get away with that, so we have to turn in the list.
Is that the last thing? Because they had a number and they agreed with us to come in with the check.
Yeah, they are, and I said, it'll be a
and then they'll turn around and get the check.
I'll just
And
turn
then
the
we're
check
gonna
over
go
to them.
rent them, the units from them affordably.
Paul, will those go on the SHI?
That's a great
Yeah.
Will
idea.
that help our
Yeah.
SHI?
I
The
think
numbers will go up.
Yeah.
That's a great spot.
Hey, if you
Yeah.
look at it, it's
That's
not
what I
much
was thinking,
different from Longview,
Yeah.
except for
Settlers,
scale.
but you're right, it was the co-op and,
Good one.
Yeah, but who keeps track of
It's too
Longview?
expensive for
Yeah.
affordable.
but the CVS apartments, that would be perfect.
We do. We have a pretty good relationship with them. They're pretty good people. Jennifer, whatever her last name is, runs it over there, and they're easy to get along with.
And you keep track of Central Street too?
No, Central Street.
When they move or sell the place?
CVS.
Oh,
No,
CVS. Yeah.
Central. Central, I understood there
Pouring
was
that leather?
somebody moved out that was in the affordable unit.
Yeah. Okay. Right. They actually went into another unit, and then they're off the program now because the mother died. The father moved in with the daughter. The father has a subsidy, and so they're off the program.
No longer qualifies?
Well, yeah, they don't need the money, right?
Oh.
Right.
Cause I never see anything advertised. I'm only hearing from word of
Yeah,
mouth.
there's another one, is it the gray brick building? Cause there's another one that's multiple units, and we had one person in there a long time ago and nothing since. A lot of people don't know about us, and so,
It's not, and the website, we got a website, you know.
yeah,
You could use the computer for posting, you know, what's available.
that's true, but a lot of the people you were talking about don't even have computers.
Yeah, but they know of a relative or a friend.
That's usually how we end up with them.
Yeah, word of mouth,
Yeah, really.
yeah,
We're about the first social aspect of Georgetown that they see.
yeah,
But after food, housing is the next thing you need,
yeah.
so.
I
Anyway,
don't know anybody that doesn't have a phone. I mean, they
A cell
can get
phone?
everything over the
yeah, that's true.
cell phone. Yeah, I don't care how poor they are, you see them.
They have a newer phone than I do.
It's,
Thank you, Paul.
Yep, you're
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next one, second item on the planning office agenda, courts and lane subdivision regulations. Everything we just said about inclusionary housing bylaw, ditto, we're gonna have to do a subcommittee. The only difference is that this will be, less rigorous in that we won't have to take these to town meeting. We still have to do the public hearing, the announcement, et cetera, but we just voted under our own subdivision regulations. These don't have to go to town
It
meeting.
doesn't have to be approved by the town.
No, because they're regulations.
see y'all later.
And
Take it easy,
Good
thanks,
night,
Paul.
Paul.
Thanks again.
Okay.
are authorized under state law to promulgate their own regulations. So, courts and lanes, who wants to, make a motion to create a subcommittee for the, revisions of 165-73.2 courts and, oh, no, excuse me, that's zoning. We're not touching the zoning.
Yeah.
We're touching the 365.
Can I just ask a question? I know we've had discussions about this briefly over the last several months. What is our goal? Do we have one, or are we just gonna review this and try to figure out whether we wanna make amendments to it, do away with courts and lanes, you know, what's the end game, I guess? Do we know?
maybe that's part of what has to happen here, because a lot of this just isn't working. They're coming before us and they're, there's certain areas where,
For waivers on waivers?
well, maybe we need to solidify the
Nobody
waivers.
seems to like it. That's, we get the most audience for courts and lanes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The residents don't like it, that's the problem.
You know, I mean, I look at it, it's one of those, it's one of those subdivision regulations that you don't find everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you either comply with the provision where you can put a two lot subdivision in, and you have a road built. It's small, you know, usually they go, subdivision roadways go along relative to the number of lots being served. So you can reduce the size of these turnarounds and reduce the width of the roadway, on a per lot basis, so.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know, so a lot of towns do not have courts and lanes set up, but they have minor subdivisions. So, you know, 1 to 5 lots, like we have one to 2 for courts, and 3 to 5 for lanes. But they call them minor subdivisions. But a lot of towns, you don't find anything other than, you know, the standard subdivision or an OSD subdivision.
I have seen in Groveland one lot subdivisions, is that something like this?
Yeah, it is something like this, but what happens with,
One lot subdivision, I saw it advertised.
so what's happened from what I can gather when we get these proposed, no one is complying with the minimum requirements. They're already asking for waivers to
Right.
reduce the, you know, that doesn't make any sense. You're already giving them the ability to subdivide in accordance with these standards that have been reduced to begin with, and then they're going like this, you know, they're cutting them in half, you know? And I know every particular subdivision is peculiar in its own way, and, you know, it's almost a unique creation.
Sure.
And we should be flexible with things, you know, and again, I've advocated with this board, we don't wanna put down any more impervious pavement than what is needed to conduct life safety. You know, the fire trucks being able to get in and get out, you know, working closely with the fire department. Over the years, I've experienced where fire departments do like their roadways wide, and they like these enormous turnarounds, so they can go in and they don't have to back out of anything. But what does that do? That creates a half acre, usually with these huge circular turnaround areas that you can land a helicopter on, a Chinook helicopter. You know, yes, it's inconvenient. It might not be the most, the safest thing to do in creating these wide T-shaped turnarounds.
Hammerheads.
Yeah.
Hammerheads.
But, you know, you have an environmental factor. You know, you don't put down 100-foot radius turnaround for, you know, a 3-lot subdivision, a 4-lot subdivision, 5-lot subdivision. You know, you work with the land, you work with the developer, you work with the fire department. You know, what can we design that's going to accommodate the fire safety issue, but not, you know, just create these blowout flooding conditions with, you know, tons of.
More pavement,
Yeah.
more pavement, sure.
Well, one of the things that I'm not happy with about it is, and it's very unique language, where they talk about the T-type turnaround, and it says the board will allow.
Right.
It should be shall or may.
May.
Either one.
May.
I mean, I don't know where will came from.
If it's will, it takes away our power.
Does that mean it's might allow, or,
No,
I mean,
it's will, you will do
you
this.
will do,
Like you
as in
have
you
to.
shall.
That takes away any of
Most
our
legal
power.
documents would say shall, most legislation say shall or may, depending on what they want to express.
My impression of will is that if it's reasonable.
This,
But it's a
that's
strong
this
word
sounds to
though.
me.
Will is like, you're being mandated,
Will is
you
saying-
have
No,
to.
that's
It
not a
almost sounds
mandate.
like it might have been
Will is
used
not
for
a mandate.
might.
Shall is maybe.
But-
Might or may is more
It's-
open for our
interpretation.
Yeah, it's easier for the
And there's-
layman to understand that.
And what I don't like about the way they designed the T-type turnarounds is when they put the frontage of the lot right on that T-type.
That radius.
And the T is making all of these curlicues around, so that you, if you line it all up and you measure it all out, you have your frontage, but if you went from point A to point B, you don't.
Yeah, is there any legal precedence that we can look to for that when we're doing our?
Shell has
No, I
always
mean
been.
on the frontage, on that point that he's saying. The radius and the sine wave going, you know, when
I
they
would
make that
imagine
T
we would
and
have
they.
to look at our definition of frontage, and then we would have to interpret
Yeah,
that
I
definition.
think that needs to be.
That's
And-
another
and apply it.
Because, yeah, people,
And I'd like to get some input from John on that, in
Yeah,
a
one-
case like that, and from the building
One
inspector,
subdivision.
how he looks at it.
Radius.
Yeah.
But, there are a lot of things that should be looked at. Is the board amenable to creating a subcommittee for this?
Yeah, if that's what it takes.
Does someone want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion to create a subcommittee to work on the courts and lane subdivision regulations for the town.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Motion has been made to create a subcommittee to work on the regulations. All in favor? Oh, any discussion? Oh, I thought we just had it.
We had a discussion, really, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Okay, when do we want to have, who wants to be part of this?
I'll be
Tilly, Ray?
part of it, but I wanna do it during the day.
Okay, if
This
it's
is
during the
enough.
day, I'll join you if it's during the day. Anybody else, or?
Can't do it during the day. I'd be part of it, but I can't. That's okay, unless, you know.
You'll
wanna
get the,
take a
you'll
personal
get,
day?
you'll get the result, you'll get the results.
Yeah, you get the final shot.
I mean, I'll
Your final
volunteer
bite at the
to
apple.
be at the meetings, especially during the day.
In the day, you can probably make it, okay.
Have lunch together.
Well,
Yeah.
Or, you know, you schedule these things at 11 and everybody gets hungry or,
hey,
you know, so
hey, why not?
Pizza
So
meeting.
it makes it a shorter
Pizza,
meeting.
Bob, are you
You
interested?
in, or what do you think?
Oh, what the hell.
Otherwise, I mean, he's gonna
Like
be,
that
he's gonna be, he's gonna be busy with
Yeah, I think I should, cause I got other stuff that I'm church, or the dens.
Sure,
Yeah.
no
Trains.
Railing.
pressure,
Yeah.
no pressure.
Harry, us three will work together, alright?
Is-
And
is
report
that-
our
does that work
findings
for the
back
board?
to the board,
Yep.
alright?
That
I
sounds
like
good.
it, works for me.
Yeah,
Works for
and
me.
we're not under a deadline.
Oh, wait, no, this is,
This is just for us.
this is
Yeah.
How many
in-house.
Yeah.
meetings do you think you're gonna have? I mean, how? 2, 3, 5?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully two
Two,
on this
you
one.
think maybe, it might be two.
Do you ever work from home?
No, but I mean, I could try to make it.
These two guys don't like to stop once they start, so,
Yeah,
you
no.
know.
This has been on our list a long time. I mean, every year we've gotten these things on our list. And nothing's getting done. So
When do you want to
hooray
schedule,
for Harry.
John, when do you want, why don't we defer to you to pick your first best shot?
How about, I mean, you don't wanna go too far out, do you?
Yeah, November.
Cause I'm looking at November 18th as a
Seven.
Monday, or the 19th.
Why does November 18th hit me as something that's not good?
It's not
Oh,
Veterans Day though, I know that. Now,
You not going away on Thanksgiving? Isn't that coming?
when is Thanksgiving this year? Is it,
I'm not
It's
sure.
late this year.
it's the 28th.
20,
Yeah.
28th?
isn't it?
Or the
Yeah.
Wow.
21st?
Almost,
No, it's the
Oh, no,
28th.
28th.
almost got.
Yep, 28th.
No, I'm staying home, cause we're going away the last week of October,
29th.
so we're gonna be home for Thanksgiving.
Do we wanna target like, the 21st of October? Is that some Monday? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
The 21st of October?
October
October,
21st?
November.
Let me go back, I was on November.
He just said he was going away.
No, I'll be here for the
21st, you'll be here.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
That work?
Yep.
21st?
Well,
What do we call this?
10 o'clock?
Subcommittee.
Subcommittee.
10 o'clock, good?
Yeah,
Sure.
perfect. Yeah, my second cup of coffee done, ready to go. The 28th is town meeting, don't forget that.
So that's, October 21, 10 AM. Good stuff. Great.
So just so you know briefly, the 28th town meeting, we have Palmer Lane is one of the warrants to accept as a public way, and the easement.
Easement, we've got stuff, we've got that in on the 10th?
Yeah.
That's the last one?
Yeah.
Good, excellent, excellent.
It's October 28th.
Yes.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
It's a Monday.
6 p.m.
6?
No,
No,
don't
7.
quote me on that.
Oh,
Seven.
okay, 7.
I get there early.
It's
Yeah,
always
well,
7.
Yeah, it's usually 7, yeah,
Yeah.
you scared the hell out
Oh,
of
they
me.
hold
no,
it till they get
get
it
there
quorum.
early
Yeah.
so you can warm up to it.
Yeah. And, yeah, so, I mean, that should not, I don't know if this will even get broadcasted, but October 28th, town meeting, go there, 7 o'clock at the school,
High school.
at the high school,
Little one.
need 100 people,
Yes.
don't be bashful,
So-
come join all your neighbors and
So
friends.
show up, so we don't have to call you to come.
Admission is free. It's great entertainment. It's free.
Someone not on its cell phones calling. Real quickly, the correspondence, did we wanna go through the correspondence? Town of Newbury Planning Board, has a site plan review, and, that's the first one, and, Town of Georgetown, our ZBA has a decision for 206 West Main Street, which is Tin Lizzie's? Is that Tin Lizzie's, right, John?
Yeah.
Tin Lizzie's, that's gonna have to come before us for a site plan review, right?
What are they doing there?
Yep. A whole host of things, it'll be very interesting.
That's a
It's,
full stay.
it's sort of like a, what do you call that one, up at the,
Mixed juices.
Describe it.
what is it?
Describe it.
It's sort of like à la carte, they're gonna do à la carte use. It's interesting, read the decision.
Is it a chain?
A gym and some offices and maybe some retail?
They can mix and match,
Yeah.
it's an à la carte thing. I've never seen a decision like that before, but, it's creative, I like it. And 3 Hardy Terrace, which was, I believe that was an in-law apartment or something. Any comments about that? You guys have them all in front, you have the full readout, right? I did wanna ask John, and I did ask John, and he was kind enough, John, if you can point out where it was for, the MS4.
Yeah.
We spoke just a little bit about that last week.
We have, and we do have several items, housekeeping type of things that,
Sure,
but,
But-
that main one you mentioned.
this one is, this is the MS4,
Yeah, this.
Year one annual
Yeah, you
report?
can disregard that,
oh,
this is the one you wanna look at, the addendum,
okay.
that was a handout tonight.
Retail, discuss year 1 annual, oh, good, great,
Yeah,
great.
okay,
So this one we don't need.
no.
Alright.
No.
Great.
The complete packet is the addendum
Fantastic,
tonight.
great.
So,
So this is, just, keep it simple for me so I can understand it. This is the latest annual report for the MS4 required.
that's correct.
And under this is the stormwater management, what is it, stormwater management plan for the town. And is that in here, or is that in, that another document?
It's part of the whole. Okay,
Right.
so MS4, what it really is all about is, it's combined sewer, inflow, discharge, and this is all tied into the 1970 Clean Water Act. So, over the last 40 plus years that the Clean Water Act has been in place, the environment has been pretty well cleaned up through federal regulations, working down to the state level and the local level. And this is the last remaining part of cleaning up point sources of pollution that are going into our groundwater, our surface waters, streams, brooks, ponds. And that is to treat and control that rainfall, if you will, stormwater, that falls on our roadways, goes into catch basins, landscaped rain garden. Just so everybody realizes, a lot of this is low impact development stuff now, that's part of this. And what scientists have been able to find out is that rainwater coming off of impervious surfaces into vegetated garden areas, natural vegetated garden areas. The plants do a great job of breaking down petroleum products and actually using them for nutrients, and it's like fertilizer for them. Plants do wonderful things to clean the environment that they have to deal with. And so it's all a matter of treatment, retention and treatment, detention, processing, cleaning up all of these surface waters caused by storm, treating them before they get into the tributaries, before they get into our rivers, before they get into the ocean.
Our ponds.
Right, our ponds. So this is what MS4 is all about. And we're part of it, all of Massachusetts is part of it. Southern New Hampshire is now MS4, an MS4 region, administered federally by the EPA, working in conjunction with the state environmental agencies in both states, for this region. So it's Southern New Hampshire, not all of New Hampshire, and all of Massachusetts. We're all part of this MS4. Now, what's different with this MS4 permit application, this is a for real permit, notice of intent. It's a 4-year program. This filing period, this is year 1, as the title reads. So it reads, year 1, annual report, Massachusetts small MS4, general permit, reporting period, May 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. With a submission deadline for this permit application being last October 1st, I should say. So we met that deadline for submitting this, all right? And as I pointed out in the staff report, electronically for board members this evening, this document, every town and city in Massachusetts had to submit this by October 1st. I'm sure some of them didn't meet the deadline, but some of them also got them in early. We did meet that deadline, and I really want to give kudos to Andrea. She did a fantastic job of doing this, while I'm doing a lot of other things and supervising what she's doing. Pete Durkee came through in a big way, helping us fill in the blanks. Now, what really helped us out with this, we don't have storage. So we don't have a lot of those, we don't have any of those outfall situations that are getting mixed in with the sewer systems and overflowing during heavy periods of rain and causing all kinds of controversy. The Merrimack River has a lot of this still going on, even though that's a source of a lot of drinking water for the population that borders that river from its origin down to the ocean. So we don't have that because we don't have municipal sewer. So what we're dealing with when it comes to MS4 are overflow situations from roadways. So you have these drain systems that, a lot of them are just going off the road in little culvert pipes and just spewing out into the environment. If you read through this, Peter already has in place, he cleans the catch basins in this town, every one of them, once a year. And the residue, the sediment that's pulled out of each catch basin is stored properly and disposed of properly. What's gonna take place in next year is that you have to have a testing program in place to test those sediments, to figure out what's in them. If any of it's toxic, that, it has to be better managed.
Are these snapshot type testing, or is it periodic, or is it just once?
No, it's a testing of the products, the materials that are coming out of the catch basin.
So it basically, every time he cleans a catch basin and he has a new lump of residue, that's gonna be tested before it goes off.
Yeah, and that's that program starts in year 2 of the 4-year permit.
John, could I put the brakes on there?
Yep.
Interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So, we're testing what's going into the catch basins. Are we testing what's entering the ponds?
Yes, yeah, that's part of it too. If you
Oh,
go
okay.
into,
What year is that?
yeah, let me show you. If you go into pages 14, page 14 is a list of all of the work tasks that are involved with the permit. A lot of them, we've been conducting for years because, we've been involved with
These
this.
are familiar.
So, yeah, since 2003, we've been doing a lot of this stuff. And the last, this page right here, which is going to be on our website, I promised the board by the 15th of October. This is a stormwater management program, also known in parentheses as the acronym SWMP. And that's going to be up and running on our website. And almost got done with this. It's just I have a couple of hours worth of work left, and I'm hopefully going to finish it tomorrow. But
And it gets posted to the website, to the town
yes,
website?
yeah, and that's a requirement of this MS4. But the
Great.
important thing in page 2 of that handout
That's-
that you have,
that's good.
yeah, it's a back page.
I think this is the important page.
What's that,
14.
Julie? Uh-huh.
14 is the plan
Right.
for 2 years.
Mhm.
That's the important one, I think, should be on the website. Because that shows the areas that are gonna have to be, some kind of action has to be accomplished. There's no more filling in a form and not following through with what's on the form.
Right.
You do this, what are they gonna do to you
Well,
if you don't?
you can get some penalties, and
I would say.
I signed this, so
Yeah.
I'm on the hook. It says
Yeah.
here, I certify under penalty of law that this
Yeah.
document and all attachments were prepared under my direction or supervision in accordance with a system designed to assure that qualified personnel properly gather and evaluate the information submitted. Based on my inquiry of person or persons who manage the system, or those persons directly responsible for gathering the information, I certify that the information submitted is, to the best of my knowledge and belief, true, accurate, and complete. I am aware that there are significant penalties for submitting false information, including the possibility of fine and imprisonment for knowing violations.
We'll visit New
Well,
Jersey.
yeah, we'll make
Bring your
a case
cake,
with a
yeah.
file.
Yeah.
Now,
John,
if this
can I
all
ask
comes
you
to
the-
be, misery likes company, and there'll probably be a lot of us in jail.
Is it possible to get this on your website, the
Oh, yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
Because that, to me, is the most important part of all this.
Oh, I'm sure we can always put that up with the
That-
water management program, right? I mean, it's one link or two, right?
Right, oh yeah, no, we're gonna get all the stuff, all reference links
Great.
are going to, we're reviewing what other communities have, so that's.
I'm more curious, you had mentioned that in year 2, that there'll be testing of the catch basins, the ponds. Where, walk me through it, John, where do I find that? Because I'm not seeing it, bear in mind, I just looked at this tonight.
Well, on page 14.
Oh,
But,
okay.
if you read through the entire permit,
I don't
it
see
gives
it.
you the status from page 1, it gives you the status of what is going on now, what's not going on.
I'm not seeing that.
On page 1?
On page 14?
No, page 14, it has all of the tasks that are you're responsible as a community
This is what you
to
have to
achieve.
do.
Right, but I'm not seeing the
Which one?
testing.
The
The
testing?
testing is, it is in there.
Well, log catch basins cleaned or inspected.
Where are you? Where are you?
Under annual requirements, second to the last one on the bottom.
Log catch basins, okay, Peter does that anyway.
Right, but
That
is this
just means
what,
logging it.
We're talking about
It
testing.
says,
We're talking
yeah,
about
it doesn't say,
Physical tests of the ponds, physical testing of the,
it doesn't say
of the-
testing, yeah.
yeah.
conduct site inspections of construction sites?
No, that's just our, we do that, that's, well, John, when you do locate that for us, would you get that to us?
Here,
And-
properly store and dispose of catch basins, cleaning and street sweeping, so they do not discharge to receiving waters?
That's,
Right.
that's,
That's how it's
Cleaning
stored,
it.
yeah.
That's
Uh-huh.
not
Yeah,
it.
but that's
Not
not
getting
testing.
tested, yeah.
Okay, alright.
Getting tested.
Yeah, I just went over that aspect, the testing part with Peter.
uh-huh,
He had just gone to a recent seminar put on by Merrimack Valley Planning Commission.
okay,
That's a policy that is being required. And I'll get the specifics in writing.
uh-huh.
Right.
Isn't that supposed to be included
It's
in?
supposed to be, but it's probably an
And then,
amendment
you know,
here
it's
off.
on the page before 13, additional information, monitoring or study results.
Oh,
Results from any other stormwater or receiving water quality monitoring or studies conducted during the reporting period not otherwise mentioned above, where the data is being used to inform permit compliance. This may be part of it.
hmm. It's
Additional
blank.
information?
Results from
Right.
additional reports. It's not
A
saying
lot
that
of,
they
a
have.
lot of the blanks within the permit themselves, the reason why they're blank is we're not conducting those activities right now, but we will be responsible for conducting them as the period of time goes on. We're into year 4, certain things have to be achieved by year 4. Certain things have to be achieved this year, next year, and the third year. So, it's not one of those situations as occurred in the past when we first got involved with this. They're not taking these permits any longer without the pains of penalty, because a lot of people are just cutting and splicing and just.
Well, a lot of it was
updating.
relatively easy. It was,
Yeah.
it would create a couple of pamphlets. I think there was a trifold thing that moved from floor to
Yeah.
floor.
Right.
It was relatively
That's
easy.
attached here.
Yeah, those were relatively easy.
When it came to page 9 there, we've had more site plan reviews than one.
Now,
No,
We're
it's
not
during,
res-
it's during the period of time in whether or not that site plan is completed. So we had one. We've had permits, we've had site plan approvals. Projects haven't started yet, they're under construction, but they're not completed. We had one that was completed, during that period of time. That's all that's saying.
are we responsible for the adherence of all these?
Not we, moi,
Oh, okay,
Peter,
gotcha, not the planning board.
Peter,
No.
no, but, some of the.
Most of the stuff is Peter related, because it's DPW, it's stormwater management, infiltration, infrastructure. And, as I pointed out to the Board of Selectmen in Mike Farrell, he's gonna need more money in his budget to, achieve all of this.
Right.
And, lead to additional personnel
Yeah.
in farming out. A lot of towns farm all of this out, because it's unrealistic to think that, your day-to-day manpower that you have can handle the
Right.
additional workload, and then you have to go out and find the money for it. It's not easy to come by. One of the biggest problems with this project, MS4, is that, it's costly, it's a federally unfunded mandate.
Well, just
Those
like
are-
everything
those
else,
are the
federally
greatest
unmandated.
You do this, and, we don't care where you get the money from.
But
Of course,
you-
it's gonna come from the backs of the taxpayers, the existing taxpayers already, and, we're not sending you any money to do it.
But when
So
it
good
comes,
luck.
when it
You
comes
shall do
to,
this.
Yeah.
to new,
Yeah,
when it comes
You
to new
must do this.
subdivisions,
You shall.
that's our responsibility.
well, no, most of this stuff, we've been practicing,
We're-
site
a lot
best
of this-
management
yeah,
practices for years and years and years.
Erosion control
Well, tell
bylaws,
me-
things like that.
all right.
No, we don't let people, get subdivision approval, hey, see you out with a bulldozer, and they wipe out those wetlands and
I
take down all the
understand that,
trees.
Larry.
We don't do any of that.
Larry follows it through, I understand the process. But what is it in our subdivision regs that says so? We rely on Larry to make sure there's a follow-up.
Every subdivision plan we have approved, and
I
guarantee
understand the
this is,
approval.
the
This is-
case dating back to probably 1980. You know, you have to control the stormwater. You have to treat
But this
the
is
stormwater.
post-construction, this is after we
Well,
get through with that
post-construct-
process.
Yeah, but with subdivisions, as with
We-
site
we-
plans,
yeah,
we practice this all the time, it's
Every-
nothing new.
Every
But the-
subdivision that's out there that we approve of, while it's being built, so
Yeah.
we have,
Right,
have
this,
engineers
Applies to new,
right,
following, making sure that it's working the way it's designed.
It's
Yeah.
It's built the way it was designed, and the calculations make sure that it works that out.
yeah, well, that's why with the
I think that's
accepted
why-
streets,
The only-
talking about-
the only places
About
this would be
places
new
that don't have
is way up.
that kind of a thing.
it
that
says
kind of a
develop
follow-
or modify an ordinance or other
Aware.
regulatory mechanism for
Right.
post-construction
Runoff.
stormwater runoff from new development and redevelopment.
Right, and so there are
So-
some communities out there that don't follow up on things like that. They don't have follow-up,
Right.
they don't have the, an ordinance, they don't have a bylaw, they don't have a regulation
Well,
that says you will be inspected after you get your permit. It's, here's your permit, thanks, and
But
they're
do what you
gone.
want.
Yeah, exactly, so
Yeah.
they're
But
making
we
sure
always
that that's
check
done.
it, and once it's accepted street, we're finished.
We're so fortunate here because we conduct most of the stuff, well, not we, Peter and his workers, they do all this stuff already.
Right.
They, you know, we take a vested interest in trying the best we can with the available resources to protect our environment.
But
We
when
do.
you're talking about costs though, John,
Mm.
some of this cost should be on the developer to maintain it.
Right, exactly.
Where is that, we don't do that. We don't do that.
no, on some of the projects we do, we say that it's in the wording, that they have to maintain it
Yeah.
on an annual
If it's,
basis.
if it's a private development
Well,
and
for
a
example,
private
the one that
road,
we were reviewing tonight, where we didn't look at the plans, that's in their stormwater management, that it has to be annually
Yeah.
maintained.
And the one
Now,
down,
following
down
up
North
and
Street
making
near
sure that
Byfield.
it is done,
That's,
that's the
it's the
trick.
construction that
trick.
would cost the town the money.
well, once a street is accepted,
It's the town's
then
responsibility.
it's the town's responsibility, and
Then
I
we're
think if we
stuck,
look
so-
through here, we're gonna find that, Peter Durkee cleaned every single catch basin last year.
Not according to my neighbor.
Interesting.
Hey, this is, look,
The one that hit in front of his house.
I
He's
live in a
just
state
very
highway.
experienced in the network.
I live in a state highway, I haven't seen anybody clean the catch basins along that highway in years.
Absolutely.
Every time it rains, more than a half an inch,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a big puddle there, waiting to make its way down there in a couple of days. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot of do as I say, not as I do.
I'm mostly concerned with the plan with respect to the testing of the ponds.
Yeah.
Finding out what the contaminants are.
Yeah.
And if there are contaminants in there, which they're impaired waters, we know that, but, finding the source of.
And that's been documented through every year, what we're dealing with, and it's mentioned in here, it's nitrates. You know, where do they come from? Fertilizers.
Right, it would be good to find out, you know, in those impaired waters, where the nitrates are coming from, where the
Yeah,
phosphates are
there's-
coming from.
Yeah, there's bacteria, there's pathogens.
There's phosphates,
Yeah.
and there's nitrogens, and where those outfalls are would be good to identify.
Where it runs into the bodies of water.
Well,
What-
when it
what
runs into the
needs-
receiving waters, it's
Yeah.
coming through a pipe,
Yeah,
and those are the outfall pipes, and, it's a question of, you said the map is online, the map is online, you can look at that map, we can zoom in, and you'll see where the outfall pipes are, and each one of those outfall pipes should be tested if the body itself is showing.
sure.
What's really needed with this is the active committee, an active committee. You know, this isn't sitting around doing nothing year in and year out. This is now required. You have to, you know,
When was the last time the committee met?
as a body,
Mm.
Recently.
not since I've been here.
Well, they're all the department heads
Yeah.
on it, so why
Yeah,
aren't they
well,
doing
That's
it?
the problem.
Come on,
I
John.
mean, well, let's see. What's the last year, what we've been dealing with is updating, okay, what should have been done annually, dating back to 2008.
Well,
So between Andrea, Peter, and myself, we updated all those missing years. 2008 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 12. All of these dates right here have been done this year. They weren't done the year they were supposed to be done.
You've caught up very, very well, Andrea's
Yeah.
caught up very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
The thing is,
No,
at this
people
point,
are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I don't know what the reason is.
well, at this point, we're moving forward with
Yeah,
it,
right.
and the testing
Yeah.
is the priority, and
You know
I'm
what it is?
concerned about
The
where
people,
that is.
the
and
people that are supposed to be doing the work, right, have to be doing the work from here on out. And that's what this,
they have to be
this
held
permit-
accountable.
Yeah, yeah, cause that's what this permit we just submitted is all about. They're not, they're not playing tiddlywinks anymore,
That's right.
this is it.
So, it's,
Okay, so moving on, thank you, John, thank you for that.
Just being real.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Speaking truth to power.
One of the last things, a training workshop, citizens planning, citizens planner training collaborative. Don't know if anybody wants to, go to one of these courses. It looks like this. It's, did I even bother putting the date?
Yeah, if
Thursday,
you-
November 7th.
Yeah, if you go on that website right there,
I did.
yeah, I mean, you'll find a lot of, there's a
Ton of them.
the trouble is,
They're all over the
I
state.
know it's not
Yeah.
a big state, but it really is when you.
Well, when you have to drive to Leominster after work, it's a little tough,
yeah.
you know?
This
The
is a good one.
Newburyport one is good.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
good one,
that's-
so.
that's-
it's-
Yeah, this is
it's-
Newburyport.
It's $35, so
Pretty
whoever wants to, sign up, let us know, and,
It's November 7th. We'll have a meeting before then, right,
yeah,
John?
yeah.
So if, look at it, take a look at it. It's almost 10 o'clock. Don't make a decision now, but I'm sure if you wanna go, we can mention it at the
Go,
next
but
one.
I'm gonna be away.
Oh, well, mention it, and
Okay.
that's how it is. And, the only other discussion topic was, review of CBD, hemp versus cannabis products, and, notice there's, discussion, on some social media with respect to, a store opening up, in the downtown, selling CBDs. They're legal products, they're regulated under the FDA. I'd just like to say that,
They
at
don't,
this
they don't have
point,
to be in the cannabis zoning
they
areas.
don't have to be in our marijuana cannabis district, our marijuana zoning district in any way. They are not cannabis, they're CBD.
There, some CBD can be a cannabis product, but but CBD itself, it's non-intoxicating. It's, actually, its effects are not really all that well, no.
Mhm.
But you know, it's not FDA approved.
It's monitored by
It's
them.
monitored by the FDA.
No, they're just
No,
starting
you
to regulate
cannot
it.
take these in your mouth. You cannot take these internally.
Right.
It's only outside your body.
But like a lotion or oil or whatever.
But you can't put it in your mouth. And that's, the warning is that children,
Children can't, no.
because they're making them looking like gummy
Gummy bears, yeah, that's kind of.
So, you know, if you suspect a child is sick for no reason, and see if he's got his hands on it, and I'm saying he could be she.
Well, again, there's been so little
CBD
Put it
research.
in your mouth and they're
No,
sick,
yeah.
you have to
Effects
take them
are-
right to the emergency room. There's no, that's the only information I could find about
Yeah.
FDA. It's not federally approved, it's just,
No, the only thing that's actually
what are these
regulated
things
is-
on the market
is
before?
medical marijuana in the state. The CBD nationally isn't yet, but the FDA is starting to put regulations around it. But the THC is what gets you high, the CBD is not.
Yeah,
So CBD, they do have even children taking it for seizures and other things.
right, right.
You just have to be supervised.
It has to be with the doctors,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, no,
And
there's
and
no-
there is
Yeah,
a
but
concern
they-
about quality.
Those,
That's the
Quality,
problem.
and whether or not you're getting real product,
Consistency, that's right.
and
And
that's,
dosages.
Well, that's why the
And-
government is starting to regulate it.
So
They're,
it's
they're gonna
being
put regulations.
started.
Why don't they regulate before they put it on the market?
That's my problem with it, and the
Me
vaping,
too.
the whole vaping thing, yeah, I blame the FDA for
Yeah,
that
and why do we allow that in
These
Georgia?
two articles that I included,
Until we
those
find
are,
out.
those are pretty good basic understandings if you don't understand any of this stuff.
well, the main thing is, it's, stores
I
opening
bought
up
something.
in our downtown. These are legal products to sell. The only people that have any jurisdiction over it is our local Board of Health. And at this point, last time I checked, I don't think the Board of Health had any regulations that allow them to actually walk in the store and control this. But I would presume that the Board of Health is working on regulations, same way we're working on our regulations.
Here's a,
And we have no control over it.
Oh, the planning board has no control over it, the police department has no control over it, the zoning enforcement officer has no control over it. This is a retail product, it's controlled.
Sign
did
gas
you see
stations.
this?
It's,
Anywhere they want to.
Computer?
exactly.
There are no regulations.
Yes.
This is
There will
North
be.
Reading did this health and
Yeah.
safety guide,
Yeah.
Oh, North Reading.
and this is how thick it is.
Yeah.
This is the best one I found for many other issues concerning, opioids and alcohol, and it's the best report I've ever seen that, and it's dated
That was
from
their Board of Health, I believe.
2019 to 20, and it's on the police department's site.
And what community is it?
North Reading.
It's the health and safety guide.
North Reading.
Yeah, and it really has a ton of information on many things that I thought was excellent, you know, because it seems like we put things on the market without doing any checking on it.
Caveat emptor.
And it's like, you know, we need a street light when people have an accident in
Cigarettes
the
were
corner.
out there before they did any testing.
One of the things I found interesting in reading those articles, because there's a lot of misinformation and advertising going on.
Oh, yeah.
There's one ad I heard that, you know, CBD is allowed to be sold anywhere and everywhere in all 50 states, and that's not the case, that's not the case at all.
No,
It's whether or not the particular state you live in allows for it, and where they categorize it. And CBDs in Massachusetts, again, in accordance with the legal opinion, they can sell them anywhere. It's not THC marijuana based, which is regulated. In this state, CBDs are not regulated.
It's considered a farm product.
Right,
It's a farm product.
right.
And it's sort of like blueberries in a smoothie.
And it very well, it very well.
That's
how
not,
it's
come
that-
on,
that's how
Harry.
that is how it is
It's
legally
the
regulated.
same plant that marijuana comes from.
No, it's not.
It's
Hemp
hemp.
is not. Hemp is not
Well,
cannabis.
read
There's-
from the federal
There's
traces
government.
so
now,
little
now.
valid information.
You got an expert here, seriously? There's trace amounts of THC in hemp, very small trace
Right.
amounts, but there's
Yeah.
CBD in marijuana.
Yeah.
And they are the same, they're different
Same family.
genesis of
Right,
the
from
same
plant.
plant.
The same
But they're
plant.
They
different.
are, but they're
So,
different.
right,
But they're not the same plant. You call them the same
Different
plant.
genesis of the
They're-
same
Genre,
plant.
same.
cannabis, that's what it is.
They are both cannabis.
Yeah,
They're in
that's,
the same family. It's
Well,
like saying
read-
broccoli
read-
and cauliflower is the
well,
same
that's
thing.
what I
One's
found.
high in the
Right.
one product, one aspect, and so one's got a lot of
I like
THC and hardly
broccoli.
any CBD, one's got
Yeah.
a lot of CBD and hardly any THC.
Right,
In the
They
sixties,
look the same.
in the 60s, they smoked hemp. Today, they smoke marijuana,
yeah.
THC.
You smoke
that-
whatever you get in the
Yeah.
60s.
With that in mind,
They was smoking
Yeah.
rope.
It
Mr.
just seems to
Chairman,
be,
I move we adjourn.
is there a second
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
motion
I
to adjourn?
second.
The only other thing
One
is
other thing?
the code,
The
Second,
code.
second.
Oh, the town code.
the town code is now online.
Woo-hoo!
Whoa.
Woo-hoo!
my
Brandon.
goodness.
And Harry was the first to pick up on this. I didn't even have a chance to pick up on it until,
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
What is
great.
this?
so,
It's
Um,
done. It's
You
done.
can
The
buy
town
these
code is.
first?
what's that? No, I don't.
Zoning bylaw?
It's online.
We're all set.
We're gonna make
Go on.
copies of it. What I'm trying to do is get a zoning ordinance in its entirety.
What-
So
Did
that's.
you hear what Bob just said? I want a hard copy.
I want a hard copy.
No, you will in time, but just to show you, these are the amendments of all the zoning in bylaws and
Since
subdivision
2011.
regs since 2011. That's how
Wow.
much this town has adopted.
Yeah,
So, and that's,
That's all been
that's
since we updated.
double
that's quite
sided.
a lot,
This
Yeah.
is
It's all
what,
been incorporated
this
now.
costs over $6,000
yeah.
to do this.
There's
You know,
money
annual-
well spent,
annual-
though.
Yeah, no, but annually for the town, it's about 1,100 to possibly 1,500, depending on how many ordinances. But this is another thing that has to be done annually,
Gotcha,
you know?
you have to keep up with it, yeah.
John, will we be
Remember that.
getting, will you be able to get from, E-code, the old booklets we used to get, where, it was chapter 165, the whole zoning code, right there in a book, findable. Same thing for chapter 365, something like that, only
Yeah,
updated.
that's what we're gonna get, along with subdivision regs, all up to date, so that's all we'll have to reference from now on, it'll be complete.
The manual.
Right,
Yes.
and that way when people come in,
Manuals.
they can get it.
Where's my mind?
I heard a motion earlier, is there a second to,
Yeah.
motion a second to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let the aye, motion carries, let the record show that the, planning board adjourns at 10:05 or 3. Oh, no, 9:58, 9:58.
Wow.
Wow, we beat 10 o'clock.